What if Naruto cheated death, surviving a wild assassination like Gaara? Comment what to improve about the video.
What if Naruto was bloodthirsty like Gaara in the strongest generation since the time of the Sage of Six Paths? Naruto of the Saigon, emergence of the Crimson One awakening. Our story starts on a daunting night, with a 6-year-old Naruto quite literally running for his life. It wasn't the first time, in fact, he'd been in this exact situation before. It usually ended with broken bones, bruises, and a painful night. The day felt particularly ominous, and the people of his village seemed to finally decide to put an end to the demon child, as he had heard before. Naruto always knew the villagers hated him. Whether it was the things they threw at him, the things they said, the glares that bore into him, or even the times he was beaten or threatened by them, he knew. Today, on his 6th birthday, after being treated to Ichiraku for lunch by his Jiji, the Hokage, he'd gone to his favorite place, the Hokage monument. Naruto was full and happy that the Hokage had come to see him. He was looking out over the village that seemed to hate him so much, until he grew tired and fell asleep atop the 4th Hokage's head. When he awoke, he remembered his Jiji's words to get home early to get some sleep and avoid drunk people from the night's celebrations. Naruto ran home as fast as he could, avoiding any populated areas, sticking to back alleys, and more vacant roads. When Naruto eventually got to his apartment, he saw a large crowd of people standing outside the entrance to the building his apartment was in. The Hokage had given him an apartment to stay in a year ago after the orphanage kicked him out, saying he would corrupt the rest of the kids. Naruto, on instinct, immediately decided to turn around and find a place in the woods to hide until morning like he did the night he was kicked out of the orphanage. Unfortunately, as soon as he turned around to leave, he heard a man scream, "Demon, he's right there. I told you he lives here. Get him." Naruto began running, as fast as he could, which was unbelievably fast for a kid his pursuers close behind him. He attempted to hide and lose them through the crowd, but this was a big mistake. As soon as Naruto ran out into the crowded street, the villagers saw him and began to shout obscenities of all kind, usually containing some form of demon in it. They threw things at him, and his pursuers caught up to him, surrounding him and glaring with large smirks that really unnerved Naruto. Naruto, seeing no escape, said, "Leave me alone. I haven't done anything. Please just let me go." "Shut up, demon," one of the villagers said. "You killed our families and our yandame. Now it's your turn, you monster," said another before he kicked Naruto in the back. Naruto then heard, "Die Kyubi," as another villager punched him in the face, causing Naruto to close his eyes. The group of pursuers began to brutally beat Naruto, who was balled up in the middle of the crowded street, while the rest of the villagers had one of a few reactions. Some cheered for the demon's or Kyubi's death. Others added insult to injury by pelting Naruto with what they could when there was space. Some grew quiet and even looked away, but none attempted to stop it. Not even the one Uchiha policeman who watched from the back of the crowd, acting oblivious to the situation. Naruto was scared. He was always scared, but now he was terrified. Would he die here? One of the pursuers who pointed out where Naruto lived pulled out a kunai and stabbed Naruto in the side, eliciting a scream of pain from the boy, who opened his eyes and stared at the one who stabbed him. The villager gazed at the empty blue eyes of the child he'd just stabbed. He then saw a light blue ring around Naruto's iris appear and begin to glow. Naruto didn't know why they'd always treated him like this. He'd done nothing to deserve the life he was given, and he wanted to punish everyone who had a hand in it. If only he had the power. He didn't want to be afraid anymore. Why can't they be afraid? The little boy thought. Something in the little blonde boy snapped, and Naruto raised a crooked, bruised arm. Then with a scream, a wave of potent chakra pulsed from his body, followed by a dozen chakra chains that rocketed from Naruto's body. The chains were midnight blue with small and were topped with a sharp, comma-shaped tip, called chains, lashing out as if snakes on a rampage. With each swipe of the chain, deep cuts and gashes followed. The mob of pursuers, the ones closest to him, were impaled on various parts of their body, and to their horror, the limited chakra they had, being civilians, /justin/j/community/forum/forum/, more was quickly drained, killing them before their injuries could. The other villagers, who were near but not close enough to get impaled initially, began to start running. Unfortunately, the chains grabbed and dragged anyone it could towards the hobbled Naruto, while the others were impaled or maimed. Naruto made eye contact with everyone his chain dragged in, the ring in his eyes glowing brighter, and once they were in his chain's clutches, he took their chakra. He didn't know how, but he didn't want them to hurt him anymore. With words, rocks, fists, or anything else. He saw an Uchiha in the standard police uniform leap towards him with a kunai. Naruto just stared blankly while another chain came from his chest as the ninja closed in. The chain impaled the ninja in the chest above Naruto, with the Uchiha's kunai about 6 inches from Naruto's head. Blood began to fall onto Naruto as he saw the Sharingan deactivate from the ninja's eyes. He saw the blood staining the white tomo of his chain protruding from the Uchiha's back. He saw it run down the chain. He felt the blood on his skin. Then he blacked out. His wounds were healed from the chakra he'd absorbed. The chains dissipated and silence fell upon the street. Most had run while some were too scared to move amidst the carnage. There were dead and wounded all around Naruto. They were mostly the villagers in the mob that had chased and beat him, although a few of the encouraging crowd fell victim to the boy as well. The Hokage appeared on the scene with a squad of Umbu surveying the scene. From the unconscious boy to the dead villagers to the dead Uchiha policeman, the Hokage looked on grimly. He ordered the Umbu to clean up and get the survivors to the hospital. He then walked over to Naruto wondering exactly what had just occurred. He knew it wasn't the Kyuubi's chakra as the chakra was unmistakable. Just then, as if to answer his thoughts, the Umbu crow appeared on a knee next to the leader of his village. Report, how could this have happened and what led up to this? And more importantly, why didn't you stop it? The Hokage nearly spat out in his growing anger. Calmly, Crow responded, there was a mob waiting for Naruto-san at his apartment causing Naruto to run away. Usually he's able to get away, so I stayed hidden as per your orders. I'm not to interfere unless his life is in immediate danger. Naruto made a mistake in coming to this main road in an attempt to shake them in the crowd. This is where things escalated quickly. The crowd surrounded him and began to berate him, but did not harm him until his pursuers caught up, at which they immediately began to beat him. At this point, I began preparations for crowd control and extraction without fatalities. I placed flash tags and smoke bombs with shadow clones and was about to intervene when Naruto-san was stabbed in the side. Someone from the crowd threw chakra-enhanced kunai at Naruto, and I was forced to intercept the kunai with my own before it came close. Before I could activate the seals, a wave of chakra came from Naruto followed by carnage. Chakra chains cut and impaled everyone in range. His chains would drag those further close, and he'd seemingly drain their chakra as well. The Chunin policeman on duty only watched until Naruto began killing. He died when he tried to kill the boy. It was a slaughter, but it was in self-defense, Hokage-sama. Even those in the crowd were throwing things and breaking your law about speaking about his burden. Naruto isn't at fault, and it wasn't the Kyuubi. I verified with my Sharingan. Crow finished. Hiruzen Sarutobi immediately felt years older than he already was. I see. Bring Naruto to my office and guard him there. I'll be there shortly. The Hokage quickly ordered. Crow grabbed Naruto and disappeared in a shunshin. The Hokage had an Umbu find Inoichi to mindwalk the survivors and see exactly what had happened. After Inoichi's report backed up what Crow had told him, he knew he couldn't punish Naruto. He'd have to assign someone to train him so he wouldn't lose control again, and also to assess what Naruto could actually do. With that solved for the moment, he had the council and the civilians to deal with, and he knew that all hell would break loose. Time skipped 2 years. It was about a week after his 8th birthday, and Naruto had a million questions but knew not who to trust or ask. Ever since he killed all those people, 23 to be exact, the Hokage made him train with one of his personal Umbu Crow. Along with the training, which he really had no qualms with, he was forced to have monthly sessions with Inoichi and other members of the Yamanaka clan to ensure his mental stability wasn't detrimental to himself and, by extension, the seal. Took him only a few months after the incident to realize he had the Kyuubi sealed within himself due to a frightening nightmare that wasn't a nightmare at all. Naruto had fallen asleep only to wake up in a sewer-like place. There wasn't much of a smell, but the floor had a few inches of clear water and there were pipes all around him, although he couldn't see much as the place wasn't very clear. It seemed as if he was looking through an unfocused camera. The one thing he could see clearly was a large gate with a tag with a strange spiral and squiggly writing he couldn't understand. The bars of the gate were thicker than he was tall, and they reached higher than he knew. Behind was an abyss of darkness with a menacing feeling hiding within. He wanted to run or hide, but for some reason he just stared. His eyes began to react, and a thin, bright blue line surrounded his iris and glowed. He could see a deep red color somewhere within the darkness, and then he heard with a gravelly voice, deep and booming, say, "You should be thankful I forcefully activated your abilities. Your eyes, they're interesting. Do well to become stronger. I will not have a weak container. And remember that the Kyuubi your village hates so much is the reason you're alive today." With that, Naruto could no longer see the deep red color, and he no longer felt the need to run. Naruto only had time to begin to ask, "What do you mean?" When Naruto next blinked, he awoke. Ever since that day, Naruto began to pay attention to everything. Everything people said around him, to everything he'd heard, until he realized that somehow the QB is inside him. At first he thought he was the QB, but the QB spoke to him. He knew it was QB, which meant that he was not the QB. When asked why the villagers hate him and why he was almost killed, the Hokage said that people hate what they can't understand and that in the future Naruto should just run. He told Naruto that killing those people was wrong, even in self-defense, to which Naruto simply smiled at. Naruto would ask about his parents and why they left no one to help him. The Hokage would simply tell Naruto he didn't know, to which Naruto would give a slightly less of a big smile. Naruto from the incident onwards always gave a big goofy smile instead of showing his emotions. He'd asked these questions of the Hokage multiple times and always got the same answer. The Hokage never told Naruto about QB, so Naruto wondered what else he was hiding or lying about, but could do nothing but smile. His sessions with Inoichi and the Yamanaka helped ease his mind about the incident. Although he still had flashbacks and nightmares of the event, and what worried Inoichi was that Naruto felt less guilty than he did a sense of calm after he'd killed his tormentors. Nevertheless, Inoichi eventually cleared Naruto to be free of the weekly sessions, to Naruto's joy. Naruto only had one person who he mostly trusted, his sensei, Crow. Crow couldn't completely be trusted as one of the Hokage's direct subordinates, but he seemed to always tell the truth. He never hid things about the shinobi world and even gave Naruto secret lessons to strengthen him more than the village wanted him to be. Most of all, he was strong. Naruto could feel the man's aura, and it reminded him of the Hokage's. Different but somewhat equal. Today, Naruto had a test with Crow-sensei to see if he could sufficiently control his bloodline. He'd come to respect and look up to his sensei. From what Crow-sensei told him, the main focus of this training was for Naruto to be able to control his ability to absorb chakra with his chakra chains, with a secondary focus of getting him physically ready for the academy. Over the years, Naruto learned the beginner and even some advanced chakra control exercises. Seeing that Naruto's chains were a chakra construct, and his ability to absorb chakra was extremely difficult to control and sometimes even direct through his chains, chakra control was the main focus. Surprisingly, Naruto excelled at chakra control, despite reserves of chakra that already match most jounin at only 7. It took years for Crow himself to attain such a level of control and doubted he could ever get to the level of control that Naruto would in the future. Naruto blasted through the leaf exercise, and then tree walking, which he did on his first try. He mastered water walking in a day. And by the end of the first month, he had done kunai floating and weapon enhancement. After all this, his control with his chains were only slightly better. He could only accurately control 2 chains at a time and could only absorb from the tomo of 1 chain regardless of how many he controlled. If he released too many chains, they'd go wild. Crow then devised a plan for physical exercises that incorporated either an aspect of chakra control, such as exercising on the water using chakra, or with his chains like the evasion train he did, where he would run through the trees using his chains to help move and avoid projectiles, and when cornered to deflect and shield himself. To maximize Naruto's preparation for becoming a shinobi, Crow taught Naruto stealth tactics, basic umbu taijutsu, and kenjutsu katas while giving him the proper scrolls to study on his own. Crow pushed Naruto physically to instill a foundation that wouldn't allow Naruto's close combat and physical abilities to fall behind the boy's ninjutsu once he began that training. There was no doubt with as much chakra and control Naruto had, he'd be a ninjutsu prodigy. Lastly, Crow taught Naruto the shadow clone jutsu as a gift for outdoing his expectations in his training. Even Naruto's kenjutsu was enough to deem the boy a prodigy by the end of his training, especially when matched with his limitless stamina. Crow was proud that Naruto could accurately control 6 chains and absorb chakra from each of the sharp koma-shaped tips at the end of his midnight blue chains. Naruto could also control the size of the chains as well as lengthen them to a degree. Crow suspected Naruto had some dujitsu or special eyes if the chakra behind them said anything, but the umbu respected Naruto's privacy. Naruto kept it to himself, especially after his sensei explained dujitsu and their power. Naruto could see chakra, and he definitely had a dujitsu. Only known to him and perhaps those he'd killed, he'd only activated it when he was alone or in danger. He believed his eyes were the reason he could absorb chakra because when activated, he could do it at will from his hands or his chains. He could see chakra through objects and from long distances. He couldn't see much else from afar or through objects, just chakra, but relatively close he could see chakra vividly. Anything imbued with chakra he could see, and even with his eyes closed he could feel it. Naruto could feel and sense chakra almost better than he could see it when his eyes were activated, but together was the best. He could see the dome of chakra the village was encased in, the village's barrier. All he had to do was focus. He could see the seals around the Hyuga and Uchiha compound. He could see the complexity of his sensei's chakra when he wasn't looking. And strangely enough, in the forests surrounding the village, he could see a vague but flowing chakra he could only imagine being from nature itself. One day he'd have to find out what it was. After reviewing all he'd learned, Naruto left his apartment heading to Training Ground 57, where he normally met his sensei. Crow was there waiting for Naruto with a scroll in hand. "Sensei, I hope you're ready to lose Databeo," Naruto said enthusiastically, causing Crow to smile under his mask. "Actually, Naruto, there's going to be a change of plans today. I have a mission and won't be able to test you," Crow said neutrally, causing Naruto to frown. Before Naruto could object, Crow continued, "I've worked with you for 2 years and I can tell you're more than ready for the academy, and your chakra chains were at a manageable level of control long ago, so I'm giving you a pass. I even got you a graduation gift." Naruto beamed at this and stared at the scroll in his sensei's hand. "A scroll? Is it finally a jutsu, sensei?" Naruto asked Crow animatedly. Crow just looked down at Naruto with silent humor and responded, "No, Naruto-kun. It's a sealing scroll. To get what's in the sealing scroll, you simply have to push a small amount of chakra into the center of the seal." Naruto nodded along, listening to the best of his patience. "I'm proud of how far you've come so far, and with the basics I've given you, you have the tools to become an exceptional shinobi. Farewell, Naruto." Crow finished, and with those last words, Crow dissipated into a murder of crows, each carrying a similar and familiar scroll. Naruto wasted no time. Knowing that his sensei was a man of few words, he thought nothing of the brief farewell in the form of a wild goose chase for his graduation present. Naruto sent out 6 chakra chains which hit 6 different crows, which faded out of existence as the crows continued to circle him with his present in their clutches. Determined not to lose after more and more of the crows were impaled out of existence, Naruto closed his eyes and activated his Jujutsu. Instantly he could sense which crow was real and which was fake. He could even sense his hidden sensei probably getting in one last laugh before he left hiding in the shadows. Naruto sent out all 6 chains to grab the real crow in case it sped up. He caught and released the crow. After grabbing the scroll, at this point he felt his sensei's chakra leave and he knew he was alone. Finding a spot in the shade of the large tree, Naruto applied chakra to the seal, and in a puff of smoke, 3 packages appeared on top of the scroll. The first was labeled Beginner Fuinjutsu Kit, which contained a couple scrolls on basic sealing along with high-quality ink and brush set. The second was labeled 18-inch Short Katana, which contained a very short katana that could almost be called a tanto. The blade was slightly curved and the black handle with white wrappings matched the sheath. Along with it contained a cleaning and sharpening kit. The final package was labeled Chakra Nature Training. This one contained chakra paper, the instructions for use, a chakra nature training scroll, and message from his sensei which read, "Run a small amount of chakra through the paper and it'll reveal your chakra nature depending on the reaction of the paper as explained on the instructions included. Once you have your proper chakra nature, use the training methods in the included scroll to train chakra nature. Once mastered to an acceptable degree, you can enhance your katana with said nature. This is my final gift as a sensei. Make me proud." Tears began to fall as Naruto looked over his katana and new possessions. He'd rarely ever received a gift in his life, so these gifts were something he'd always cherish. Not only would he become a Kenjutsu master, but he'd become a Fuinjutsu master as well, something he promised himself knowing he would never go back on his word. Naruto gathered his gifts and proceeded to make his way back to his apartment. His katana already strapped to his back by a seal in the sheath that would stick when chakra was channeled through, similar to the way he stuck to trees with chakra, he assumed. His sensei really thought his gift through. As Naruto made his way through the village, the villagers glared but never to his face. They wouldn't outright kick him out of stores or harass him in the streets anymore. Ever since the incident in which he killed 22 civilians, 1 chunin, and injured almost a dozen more, the villagers were terrified of him. Children ran from him and the adults steered clear. If he needed groceries, they'd help him immediately and give him what he wanted, sometimes without him even paying as long as he left promptly, and they usually had weapons. One person, a village woman whose husband died in the incident, attempted to kill Naruto for what he had done. 6 months after the incident, she attempted to cut his throat with a butcher knife by surprise when she caught him leaving Ichiraku at night. Naruto blocked the knife with a chakra chain, and with cold blue eyes surrounded by a thin ring of light glowing blue, Naruto sent a chain through her heart while absorbing all of her chakra, once again dyeing the white tip of his chains in red. He allowed the Umbu following him to clean up. When questioned, Naruto told the Hokage that he would fight for his life with no remorse, and with a large smile finished, "That's just how my world is." Hiruzen, seeing clearly the repercussions of his villagers' actions, only nodded and allowed Naruto to leave. He'd need to have a Yamanaka speak with the boy. Naruto walked through the village, sensing the emotions of the villagers as he passed. The only ones who weren't afraid of Naruto were the older ninja, the clans who understood his actions, and the Ikarakus. Naruto figured it was better they fear him than hate and abuse him. Naruto had 4 months to prepare for the academy. He would not disappoint. He would be the strongest ninja to ever live. He would be a god of chakra. As Hiruzen entered the council chambers, he couldn't help but let out a long sigh. He knew the surprise council meeting was simply another ploy to get the boy killed or under their control. After the incident a couple years ago, the civilian council tried everything possible to get Naruto killed. The bastards even went to the fire daimyo, causing Hiruzen to present evidence that it was not the Kyuubi's doing and that Naruto was defending himself from an out-of-control mob. Having the shinobi council on his side, although cautious, was a great help to the situation. Even though Hiruzen had to divulge the information he originally had about Naruto's bloodline to explain the explosion of power exhibited, despite wanting to keep said knowledge to himself, the situation gradually abated. Danzo tried multiple times to force Hiruzen to allow him to train the boy. He even attempted to make contact with his root, but Crow was one of the best. Hiruzen had assigned him to look after Naruto from the shadows, as well as train him. Fortunately, Crow engaged and forced the root Umbu to flee. The third Hokage had to claim Naruto under shinobi jurisdiction to stop the hold over Naruto the civilian council continued to abuse. Any more would be detrimental to Naruto. Hiruzen the Sandame, third Hokage of the village, hidden in the leaves, sat in front of the gathered council. The civilian council consists of elected positions, wealthy political figures, and advisors to his left, the shinobi council consisting of clan heads and high-ranking shinobi to his right. The council was seated in a wide oval with the Hokage at one end and the other end open. Hiruzen gave a stern look, and with a voice that showed his annoyance, he asked, "For what reason have you called this meeting that happens to be so emergent?" Sakuri, an elected civilian councilman, was the first to start. "Hokage-sama, we cannot allow the demon brat to join the academy. He's a danger to all the clan heirs as well as my daughter. He shouldn't be allowed to live after he rampaged and massacred innocent civilians." "Sigh. Anyone else have anything to add?" Hiruzen said tiredly. Koharu, an older woman in a formal kimono, one of the advisors and Hiruzen's old teammate, went next. "I agree, but not that he should be killed. The boy should be trained away from his peers for their safety. If I'm correct, the incident isn't the last time the boy has killed. He killed one of his victim's wife and walked away without a second look." Hiruzen flinched but continued to listen to Koharu. "He should be given to Danzo for the public safety and the strength of Konoha." Tozen, another of the elected council, screamed out, asserting his turn to speak. "Kill the damn demon. He massacred the people in the street and you did nothing. He's just waiting for the moment to kill us all, and you're just going to let him." "Enough!" Hiruzen boomed, spreading his killing intent throughout the room, creating silence. The civilians were not innocent. They formed a mob to hunt down and kill a 6-year-old child. They beat him, threw sharp and blunt objects, stabbed him, and continually broke my law while no one did anything. "But the demo dash," interrupted Tozen. "Silence. If you speak again while I'm talking, your life is forfeit." Hiruzen admonished in a steely tone. The boy was defending himself. He wasn't able to control his bloodline at no fault of his own. As far as I'm concerned, everyone close enough to fall victim was guilty. The woman he killed attempted to cut his throat. He was well within his rights to react in kind. He has been trained to not lose control of his bloodline and passed his sessions with Inoichi. He will enter the academy, unless you have a legitimate reason that leaves no room for discussion." The Hokage said sternly while looking around the room for any who had something to add. Shibi Aburame, head of the Aburame clan, smoothly began to address the Hokage. "I will admit there is a concern with admitting a student with almost 25 confirmed kills, one being a chunin, into the academy. Is it okay if we hear from Inoichi about the mental status of the boy and possibly his level of control from his sensei?" Hiruzen pondered for only a moment until he motioned for an Umbu who appeared next to him. Hiruzen sent the Umbu to get Crow. The Hokage then motioned to Inoichi and instructed him to give a vague, rough view of Naruto's mental state as to not be too much of an invasion of his privacy. Inoichi, the head of the Yamanaka clan, stood and began. Naruto Uzumaki, after the incident, was, for lack of a better word, numbed. He'd received harsh treatment before and even a few beatings, but nothing of the level of that night. In my opinion, I think Naruto switched to a mindset of survival first. He has no love for the villagers or for the better part of the village. but harbors no ill will. He's haunted by those he's killed in his dreams but is indifferent to the act. He will smile no matter what he feels, so he's hard to read, but overall I don't believe he's dangerous to those he doesn't see as a threat to his survival. Inoichi sat down and allowed the rest of the council to think over what he's just said. Crow appeared next to the Hokage, who instructed him to explain the limits of Naruto's control. Crow spoke neutrally. Naruto has intricate control of his chains, which can catch Genin speed shuriken out the air. He's limited on how many he can use at once, but that number can grow with time. He can absorb chakra from the tips of his chains, or if enough of the chain is touching the target. Although his chains react unconsciously, he's able to defend, without lashing out if the situation calls for it. He's physically and mentally ready for the academy as per my assignment. Crow-san, what do you mean by unconsciously? And how strong is his ability to absorb chakra? Danzo inquired. Crow sent a quick glance at the Hokage, and after receiving a nod, he replied, Naruto's a natural sensor whose abilities shouldn't be taken lightly. His chains react to chakra presences that enter 1 foot of him if he's on edge. It initially lashed at the presence, but we've been able to change his base reaction to the chain coiling like a snake to strike. Now, thanks to training, it instantly appears coiled in a circle ready to strike. It looks akin to a circular shield of chain with a bright white tomo in the middle. He has near Jounin-level chakra control and reserves, allowing me to help him mold the almost involuntary action into somewhat of a defense. He doesn't need to see attacks, even from thrown weapons, although they're more likely to go unnoticed if there's no forewarning. He has a sensitive sensory field of 5 meters where I believe he knows where everyone and maybe everything is. The Hokage interrupted, signaling that he had said enough. He didn't want the council to know that Itachi trained the boy in nearly every aspect of being a shinobi to some degree, essentially preparing Naruto as if he was a shinobi besides learning jutsu. Danzo had a gleam in his eye he was just barely able to hide. Any further questions or concerns? Hiruzen asked the council. Ignoring the motion of Councilman Tozen, Hiruzen adjourned the meeting and dismissed the council. The first day of the academy was much like Naruto had expected. The kids were terrified of him. Noon would sit near him for fear of being killed. Apparently, word had spread. As such, Naruto's smile wasn't as bright that day, but it was undeniably there. After the introductions, he could say that none of the senseis seemed to want to get near him. The Uchiha in the class glared but kept his distance. There was only one person in his class who didn't seem to fear him but was too shy to approach. She had dark blue Heim-style hair, something he liked because it reminded him of his chains. She also had large kind eyes, seemingly with no pupil, meaning she was a Hyuga. He'd notice her staring when she thought he wasn't looking, and she didn't have a look of hate or fear but curiosity. Naruto made sure to give her a brighter smile than the rest. The senseis treated him cautiously and never attempted to give him extra help, although they'd never withheld lessons from him, even though he could feel that some of them hated and feared him. A few months into the year, Naruto was sitting in a tree near the academy. He'd sometimes hide and watch the other kids play who would more likely play with a hungry lion before him. He felt a pain in his chest, but rather than cry, he smiled and activated his Jujutsu. The colors he'd see in the forests in and around Konoha always seemed to soothe him. As he looked at the playing kids, he could see the dancing chakra signatures. Seeing the chakra coils and system was slightly difficult for Naruto but improving. Unlike other Jujutsu, he could see much more than pure chakra. He could see chakra in depth, although he couldn't understand everything he saw just yet. After reading the scroll on chakra natures, he was able to discern a person's chakra nature with his eyes. He could see it before but couldn't explain what he was seeing. To a degree, he can tell a person's mental state by the fluctuations in their chakra. When someone had a high amount of emotion affecting them, their chakra would fluctuate. Looking further into the forest near the academy, a good distance away from the group of playing kids, were 4 chakra signatures. One was fluctuating enough that he knew something was wrong, and out of curiosity, he began to travel quietly through the trees towards the 4 chakra signatures. When he arrived, he saw the same Hyuga girl from his class on the ground being pushed around by some older kids. They taunted her about being weak and thinking she's better than them, and were about to rub her face into the ground when a midnight blue chains with white tomos on the tips wrapped around the kids, lifting them high in the air. The Hyuga girl looked up at Naruto and his goofy smile and blushed. She wondered where the kids were until she looked up at 3 sleeping kids. Naruto had drained their chakra until they fell asleep. She spoke with a heavy stutter and asked if they were dead. Naruto shook his head and said they're asleep. Naruto slowly lowered them to the ground, and the Hyuga girl used her Byakugan to see if they were still alive before speaking again. With heavy stutters, she managed to get out. I'm Hinata. Thank you for saving me. "You're Naruto, right?" Naruto nodded and was confused when he saw the girl stick out her hand. He'd seen people do it before but never had the chance to try it. He extended his arm to shake her hand and gave the brightest smile he could give. "And nice to meet you," Hinata said. "Nice to meet you too, Hinata," Naruto responded. Naruto didn't know what to do next because he'd never really talked to a kid his age. Hinata wondered if this was really the cold-blooded killer child everyone said he was. How could he be? She was a very shy child, and she was nervous enough to faint, but she felt a spark of courage inside of her. Just enough to ask a question. Do you want T to be my friend?" Naruto was shocked to hear those words and didn't know how to react. Naruto settled for a nod and a rare true smile for his first friend. He sensed someone coming, so Naruto moved out of the way of Hinata's bodyguard who'd come to pick her up. He walked cautiously past Naruto, taking into account the unconscious boys, and picked up Hinata, resolved to get her story when he had her safe. Hinata waved and attempted to say bye, but her bodyguard body flickered away. From that day on, even though she was saved by him, Hinata's father wanted her to steer away from Naruto. Hinata, on the other hand, developed a crush on the boy. In class, her subtle looks became not so subtle staring that never escaped Naruto's attention. Naruto started talking to her over lunch. He'd never have much of anything to eat, and she'd bring him home-made bentos that tasted pretty bad but got better over time. Naruto talked little about his life but more about his dream of becoming the strongest to ever live. Hinata opened up about her family and how weak she felt. Naruto never once missed a chance to uplift her confidence, which usually led to a red-faced, stuttering Hinata. Sometimes, Hinata would conveniently have her bodyguard take her for ramen at Ichiraku's, and Naruto would just happen to be there. Toechi and Ayam had a running bet on when they'd get together and teased them whenever they came, much to Hinata's bodyguard's ire. Naruto never did more than necessary in class, maintaining a solid place in the middle of the pack, although he was obviously holding back. He trained on his own in his former training ground 57, which seemed abandoned because no one but him used it. He worked on his chakra chains along with his kenjutsu almost religiously. Every now and then, he'd get a random scroll detailing chakra theories, battle tactics, the basis of an uncompleted technique, or a jutsu like the shadow clone. He never saw who left them, but he was sure he sensed a crow. He would study Fuinjutsu whenever his body was resting. Fuinjutsu seemed to come easy, and Naruto was overdue to ask the Hokage for more in-depth scrolls to further his education in the art. He spoke to Hokage regularly with his signature big goofy grin. He wouldn't mention his jujitsu unless he absolutely had to because he couldn't trust someone hiding things from him. He still appreciated his Jiji and wanted to make him proud, so continued to train with chakra control and taijutsu katas Crow had taught him. Naruto trained to the point of exhaustion every day and even placed gravity seals on his body. Seals he'd found on a random scroll delivered to his apartment. Naruto would have to keep them on for 5 years, but speed wouldn't be a problem, thanks to another one of the mysterious scrolls. He liked to imagine his sensei was sending them, but Naruto hadn't even sensed him around the village since around the Uchiha massacre. He'd always had a feeling his sensei was an Uchiha. 2 years had gone by quickly, yet Naruto was still hated and feared by the village, possibly due to all the assassination attempts on his life that ended in a bloody mess. Twice, Naruto himself stopped an assassination attempt in his own apartment. Once from a civilian who was let in by the landlord. Naruto impaled 4 chains through his chest and dropped the chakraless body out the window to the street. The next was a chunin paid by a member of the civilian council. Naruto sensed him in his sleep and had his chain defense prepared. The chunin attempted to behead him in his sleep, but was befuddled when a large blue circular shield made of chains and 3 white tomos materialized as he lowered his katana. The ninja's katana made contact with the chain shield and bounced off, creating sparks in the process as if he'd just hit a steel wall. The 3 tomos topping the chains shot towards the surprised ninja and impaled him in the chest, and Naruto once again deposited him out the window. 2 similar events happened in public where the civilians believed they could blend in the crowd and kill him from behind. The first time wasn't too bad as Naruto killed the single assailant by wrapping them with his chains and draining their chakra. The next time he impaled 2 of the assailants in the head and used his chains to disembowel the 3rd assailant high in the air, forcing the crowd to see what happens to those who attempt to kill him. The last attempt that ended in a death all but solidified Naruto's moniker, Demon of the Midnight Sky. The council ramped up the attempts on Naruto's 10th birthday by paying a jonin to do the job. The jonin attacked in Naruto's apartment, but Naruto had sensed this jonin's malice and hate through his chakra as it fluctuated angrily. He had a habit of leaving a clone to meditate while training his sensory ability while he slept. The clone dispelling would instantly wake him if that's what it intended. On that night, the clone had time to wake Naruto and take his place while Naruto attempted to escape. Being a jonin even in his rage, he was able to spot the deception immediately and was on to Naruto's trail. Naruto had his katana on his back, although he still wore his baggy pants he slept in and no shirt. He jumped from roof to roof until he sensed something coming. He created a large shield that could cover his back by using 4 chains intertwined to create his unique defense. At first, he felt shuriken and kunai deflect off of his shield. He looked back and saw nothing, and when he turned back around, the jonin was sending a roundhouse kick to his face. Naruto flew backwards off the roof and into a nearby wall. He made a quick hand seal and 50 Naruto clones puffed into existence with his short katana brandished in their hands. With a smile and scream, they charged. The jonin taunted that no matter how many there were, they'd all die, and made a few hand seals, raising 7 mud clones of his own that engaged Naruto's. Meanwhile, Naruto hightailed it towards the only direction he could, the forest. The jonin had purposefully blocked the way towards the Hokage Tower and shinobi clans, and Naruto knew it. He'd learned tactics and situation awareness under Crow-sensei and only improved his knowledge with the shinobi library and the academy. He needed to create distance, and he needed to make use of his surroundings, and he could do that once he reached the forest. Once in the forest, he staged an ambush point with 20 clones, hoping to delay the jonin long enough to get away. The stunt only bought him a few seconds, and the jonin was soon upon him again with a kunai attempting to slash his neck. Naruto parried with his katana while attacking with a couple chains that the jonin was able to avoid and redirect. The jonin continued his assault on Naruto, slashing and landing devastating kicks while avoiding the 10 chains Naruto was simultaneously using. The jonin was just playing with him, which was evident by the cuts and 2 shurikens sticking out of Naruto. Naruto began to use 8 chains for defense with only 2 to attack, and even with the chain shields he was still getting nicked, and the kicks would still send him backwards and knock him off his feet. In a daring maneuver, Naruto lunged at the jonin with his katana, all of his chains following. The jonin parried the katana and dodged or redirected most of the other chains, but 2 cut him along the left side of his face, leaving long gashes and nearly destroying his left eye. Slowly losing vision in his left eye, and feeling his chakra take a massive hit, the jonin decided that it was time to end the demon brat. He jumped back a couple meters and rapidly went through hand seals and said, "Earth-style, hardened punishment." All around Naruto, rocks ranging from the size of his head to the size of the jonin's whole body were slowly being raised in the air. Naruto could see the chakra infused in the rapidly multiplying rocks and knew they were going to rush in and crush him. He would die. Naruto had multiple broken ribs, a kunai in his back, 2 shuriken in his leg, and had cuts littering his body. He might die anyway, but he wasn't ready. He had a friend and still didn't know what happened to his sensei. He thought about his chains, but 10 wouldn't be strong enough. He'd lose control if he used more. A familiar voice, after years of silence, spoke in his mind. "Forget control. Put everything into your chain defense, then let them rampage. There's only him around, and I'll help you. I won't die because of a weak container. Don't disappoint me, Ninjin," Kyubi told him with a raspy chuckle. No time to think, Naruto put every bit of chakra he had into summoning his chain's defense. Feeling a rush of chakra from somewhere other than his reserves, he added it to his chain defense, and as the rock stopped raising, his defense began to multiply. He brought out hundreds of chains, all interlocking into dozens of circular chain shields with the bright white tomos sparkling with the midnight blue. Each chain shield seemed bigger and thicker than the last until Naruto was surrounded by a chakra chain dome. The rocks converged onto the dome, creating an explosion sure to draw attention. Debris and dust flew high into the air, and the jonin wondered if his A-rank jutsu had done the job. To his surprise, the dome, which looked similar to a night sky full of stars, seemed untouched. At that same time, an Umbu squad had just arrived close enough to see the blue dome and a jonin who had apparently released the A-rank jutsu. A moment later, there was carnage. The dome exploded outward, each one of the hundreds of chains shooting into a different direction, destroying the trees and the ground, even killing the jonin while ripping his body into pieces. The Umbu barely made it away. The chains wreaked havoc for longer than any of the Umbu would have wanted. Even at a distance, dodging projectile debris and random chains was difficult. Luckily, the chains didn't have the range they could have if he wasn't using hundreds at one time. The rampage of chains had basically created a new clearing. In combination with the rampaging dark blue chains and white tomos, the Umbu and the civilians close enough to see saw the very sky in his chains. To some it was the night the demon chained the sky. To the Hokage it was the night he lost his ship. The amount of attempts on Naruto's life, along with the lengths the civilian council would go to kill Naruto, had reached a boiling point with Hiruzen. He tasked 3 Umbu squads to investigate all the attempts on Naruto's life and the connection to the civilian council. A week later and Hiruzen had executed 3 of the civilian council, including Tozen, who so often called for Naruto's death. After hearing that Naruto killed a Jonin, even the academy sensei were afraid of him. After a 2-week stay in the hospital with daily visits from Inoichi, Naruto had developed an unconscious killing intent, and although he still smiled, he was nowhere near as upbeat and he'd used to be. His smile was nothing more than a mask. He trusted no one, except for maybe a pupilless Hyuga he knew. Over the years, Hinata had occasionally visited Naruto when he trained, and they still ate lunch together at the academy. While the stories and rumors continued to surround Naruto, Hinata always got the truth from Naruto. She knew he'd only defend himself. She was conflicted when she began hearing of Naruto killing civilians and shinobi, but when she spoke to Naruto about it, he explained the attempts on his life. He felt that if he didn't kill those who tried to kill him, he would have little to no chance of surviving. To him, killing his enemies was his way of surviving, something Hinata begrudgingly understood. Inside Naruto was just a scared little boy, and Hinata would be damned if he'd be alone as well. Spending so much time with Naruto, who constantly uplifts her despite how her family treats her, did wonders for her confidence. She no longer stuttered, and would even openly defend Naruto in front of her clan and the villagers. Hinata even trained with Naruto as often as she could, and when teachers at the academy failed to give Naruto proper instruction in his studies, she helped him. Knowing Naruto would become the strongest ninja ever, she had a high bar to compete with because she wanted to be his equal in strength, if not stronger. Every training session with her father she trained as if her life was on the line. By the time she turned 10, she even could give her prodigy cousin Niji, who hated her and the main branch, a run for his money. Although she understood why her cousin hated her, she wouldn't become his punching bag in their clan spars. With Naruto, she learned mostly chakra control because Naruto could teach her better than the senseis at the academy. Honestly, Naruto was probably better at chakra control than her senseis at the academy, Hinata often thought. While Naruto, at this point, knew most about Hinata's life and clan, Hinata knew little about Naruto and slowly began to pry information from the calm, collected, smiling blonde. Eventually, Naruto told Hinata about his life and surprisingly even about his unique jujutsu. He explained about his ability to see chakra in such detail. He explained his ability to absorb chakra, and with some experimenting, the ability to give it. They would compare their jujutsu, and found that the Byakugan could see physical things further, but Naruto could identify and analyze chakra from farther than the Byakugan. When activated, Naruto's chakra control was near perfect. His jujutsu heightened his chakra sensing abilities, allowing him to feel anything and anyone within a 5 to 15 meter radius, almost as if he could see it all like the Byakugan. He could see a single chakra signature from over a kilometer and could even see residual traces of chakra when focusing on a specific one. Hinata liked the subtleness of his jujutsu. Most people probably would never notice the thin glowing blue ring around the iris of his eye. The most fascinating part of Naruto's eyes was the depth of chakra he could see. He could see elemental chakra natures, a person's emotions from their chakra, and even the amount of spiritual and physical energy combining to create chakra. He could see seals much like the Hyuga, although unique to him, his eyes could somehow tell exactly what the seal's function was. Similar to the Sharingan's ability to copy jutsu, Naruto was able to copy seals. He had very little practice applying the seals he'd copied, but was improving the more he experimented. Eventually something dawned on Hinata. While the two were sticking to the trees with chakra dodging rocks from varying directions, courtesy of Naruto clones, Hinata jumped to the ground and just loud enough for him to hear said, "Naruto-kun, let's take a break, I have a question. Please?" Naruto gave a questioning look but nodded. "Yeah, no problem, Hina-chan," he said, joining Hinata on the ground. Hinata blushed slightly at the recently given nickname. "What's your dojutsu called?" "Naruto-kun. I call it the Saigen. It means the spirit or energy eye." Naruto responded with pride. Naruto's reply along with his smile caused Hinata to go comically red, which she eventually fought down despite her embarrassment. I think that's a great name for your jujutsu." Hinata smiled to emphasize her statement, this time causing Naruto to go slightly red and rub the back of his head. "Hinata, I have a question too." At Hinata's prompt, he continued, "Why do you train so hard?" "You know why I do, I have to." "Is it to prove yourself to your clan?" Hinata blushed at the serious question but regained her composure. The next year had passed and was relatively peaceful. Naruto, 11, visited the Hokage less often and Ichiraku's at least twice a week, although Hinata would always get him to eat better by bringing him food to eat with her, and even on a few occasions when her father was especially happy, she'd bring him to the compound to eat. Ever since she beat Niji in a spar, even though it was only once, the clan and her father could say nothing about his influence on her. Since they began studying and training together, she'd become top kunoichi of her class and was in the top 3 overall. Hanabi couldn't compete without major handicaps, and Niji had to work and scrape out every win against Hinata. Yet still Niji never felt as though she may overtake him. The Hyugas were too wise and noble. In their own words, to believe Naruto was the Kyuubi or possessed. The clan also acknowledged the extreme life Naruto had lived, and if it wasn't for the fact that Naruto has proven he can protect himself and Hinata from the ones who hate him, the clan would have actively forced Hinata to cut ties with Naruto for her safety. The clan acknowledged his strength and a select few acknowledged his heritage, unknown to him. Hinata had used her father's good mood, persuading him to allow her to accompany Naruto to the giant forest the next day. Hashirama, the first Hokage, had created it himself. The first Hokage created most of the trees surrounding Konoha, but this forest was huge, easily twice the height of surrounding forests. They'd been planning this for a while but needed a full day because it would probably take the better part of one. Hinata and Naruto were going to test the limits of his Saigon. Naruto arrived at the Hyuga compound early to pick up Hinata. Her usual bodyguard, Ko, waiting for Hinata in the meticulously maintained courtyard. Ko would kindly give Naruto and Hinata their space when watching over the Hyuga clan heir, always watching from a distance with his Byakugan. Hinata made her way to the two, greeting Ko, and with a small blush, greeting Naruto, causing Ko to smirk. Ko purposefully fell behind as the Jujutsu duo made their way to the largest forest around Konoha near the East Gate. Ko remembered Hinata's father Hayashi emphasizing his mission to protect Hinata's innocence. Absolutely no funny business. Hayashi's exact words were, to Ko's amusement. Naruto and Hinata arrived at their destination and used her Byakugan to find the largest tree in the area. They made their way towards the tree with one mission in mind. Investigate the warm/calming chakra that could be felt throughout this part of the forest. Naruto explained to Hinata the strange light green chakra he saw. It was everywhere to a point but more abundant in natural environments such as forests, lakes, and mountains. Naruto somehow knew it was natural energy or natural chakra. He told her how some of the larger trees gave off a special aura. The trees had a dark green chakra intertwined with the light green of natural energy. He couldn't help but be drawn to it. Hinata, although she was unable to see the chakra, she was able to come up with a theory on what it was. Because Hinata is usually quiet and reserved, her ridiculous IQ always went unnoticed. Only Naruto really knew that the only person smarter than her in the whole academy would be Shikamaru by a small margin. When Hinata said it was probably the Shodai Hokage's chakra, and that Naruto could probably absorb it, Naruto made it his personal mission to absorb and analyze Hashirama Senju's chakra. First he knew it'd take time to sort through the natural chakra and pull enough of Hashirama's chakra to absorb. Once absorbed, Hinata would be able to see the chakra integrate with his system, or in a worst-case scenario, be rejected by his chakra system. Naruto would have to expel the chakra before he suffers any backlash in that case. Naruto sat in a meditative position in front of the tree, clasping his hands together as if praying and with a smile, "Ready, Hina-chan, it might take a while, but I think this is the tree we need." Hinata giggled hearing the excitement in his voice and responded, "I'll be right here, Naruto-kun, but if you can't do it, I want cinnamon buns." Naruto laughed and chuckled out, "And let me guess, if I do it, we celebrate with cinnamon buns?" Hinata once again giggled and motioned for Naruto to begin. Naruto activated his Jujutsu and closed his eyes. He would first use his senses boosted by his Saigon to identify the highest concentration of the Shodai's chakra within the tree. He'd then mentally lock onto the first Hokage's chakra. Opening his eyes, having completed the first stage, Naruto gazed at the tree. More specifically, the chakra mixture of natural chakra and the Shodai's chakra that was so thoroughly intertwined. For nearly an hour, he was distinguishing every drop of the Shodai's chakra and placing his hand on the tree. He began to gather the chakra to where his hand was placed. Not yet absorbing because he knew he couldn't handle nature chakra mixed within. Natural chakra was as unpredictable as the weather. It was powerful and endlessly connected. He knew that if he began absorbing nature chakra, he might not be able to control or even stop the flow of it. Naruto took his time. He'd identified all of Hashirama's chakra in the tree. He'd pulled most of it together and pushed the natural energy away. After another hour of separating the chakra within the tree, Naruto said, "Ready," attempting not to lose focus. Hinata had been observing Naruto the whole time. She was watching for any information on his abilities or Saigon that she could. Naruto and Hinata still knew little about the Saigon, and this was a chance for her to help Naruto understand his Jujutsu more. When Naruto uses his sensory ability with his Saigon activated, the more he focuses, the more a thin layer of chakra develops around his body. Hinata theorized the layer of chakra acts similarly to the sonar of a bat in the sense that the layer of chakra pulses and bounces off chakra presences and even objects and then returns to Naruto, and provides him with unbelievably accurate information of his immediate surroundings. While Naruto was preparing the chakra in the tree, Hinata had even noticed the thin glowing blue ring that circled his iris growing larger. The more he used his Saigen, the thicker the glowing blue ring grew. She even noted down that it expanded inwards towards his pupil. By the time Naruto was ready, the ring had doubled in thickness and was glowing violently. For once, his Saigen was unmistakably showing. Hinata was sure that if it was dark out, Naruto's eyes would look like mini lanterns because of the intensity of the blue glow. Hinata prepared herself to close the flow of chakra to his arm should Naruto need it. Naruto began to absorb the Shodai's chakra, and once it entered Naruto's system, Hinata could see it as well. The Shodai's chakra was extremely dense and was more erratic than normal chakra. Naruto left a little of the first Hokage's chakra in the tree so as not to accidentally absorb the natural chakra. Once extracted, Naruto withheld from absorbing all of the chakra. He pulled from the tree and simply held some in his hand without allowing it to join with his own. He let his eyes reveal everything he could. He could see the mix of earth and water chakra, and upon further inspection he could see a small amount of Yin chakra holding the elements together. He could see Hashirama's unique chakra signature and had an idea. He wanted to recreate this chakra that he'd just analyzed. He highly doubted he'd ever forget the exact mixture of earth, water, and Yin chakra, which meant he could probably recreate it in time. He could, but Naruto had a nagging feeling that he could do better. He raised his other hand and generated his own chakra. Side by side, he focused on his and Hashirama's natural chakra signature, then began to work. Having unique abilities due to the Saigen, Naruto came up with a plan to manipulate the Shodai's chakra to match his personal chakra signature, expand it and absorb it as his own chakra. Normally, when Naruto absorbs foreign chakra, it's simply converted into raw chakra. Naruto only gains the extra chakra boost and healing the excess chakra provides. If he integrated the chakra with his personal chakra signature before he absorbed it, then he'd theoretically be able to recreate it naturally through chakra nature training. Similarly to how he and Hinata trained their elemental affinities, lightning and wind for Naruto and water for Hinata, with exercises like leaf cutting for wind or water swirling for Suiton. Naruto basically was getting a feel of the Shodai's Mokuton chakra. Once Naruto had successfully altered the Shodai's chakra, a feat that only took him 3 hours, he expanded the chakra in his palms, creating more of the dense dark green chakra. Hinata watched as Naruto stared at the chakra in his hands, and after seemingly an eternity, she saw it begin to expand. She saw the same dark green chakra begin to grow and expand around Naruto. She watched as he absorbed it completely and released it again on his palms. He then expanded the chakra until it began to disperse in the air, and he once again absorbed it all in. Hinata knew it was time for cinnamon buns because Naruto had done it. She looked down, and around them the grass and plant life had grown significantly over the last few hours. She smiled at Naruto and said so, while looking at Naruto expectantly. Naruto gave her his biggest smile and with a thumbs up said, "I did it, Databeo. I can create the chakra at will, I just need to train it." Hinata saw a gleam in his eye and knew that if she did nothing, Naruto would be out here for the rest of the day and she wouldn't get her cinnamon buns. Hinata also knew how excited he was and didn't want to ruin it just yet. Suddenly, Naruto moved closer to Hinata. He looked from her eyes to the floor and back to her eyes. Naruto spoke shakily, I have another mission to complete today." He was close enough to make Hinata blush, who responded, "What other mission, Naruto-kun?" Hinata said as her blush reddened. Hinata hoped his secret mission was to sweep her off her feet and marry her right there, but that only happened in her dreams. To her surprise, Naruto leaned in and gave her a soft kiss on the lips. Naruto, who was at the end of his adrenaline-induced courage, waited for Hinata's response with a bated breath. Hinata froze, her face became beet red, and she promptly passed out. Naruto began to freak out but eventually settled down to wait for her to awake. He'd even sent a shadow clone to pick up a load of cinnamon buns in case she woke up angry. Ko, who was sitting in a tree half a kilometer away, fell out of his tree in fits of laughter. He had a bet with a couple members of the clan on when one of the kids would confess. His wager was that it would happen by the end of the academy year. The others bet on their last year in the academy. He'd just won a lot of Rio and it was hilarious to boot. He could see the nervous boy freak out after Hinata passed out. Hinata was in a blissful dream world while Naruto was scared that he had upset her. Ko was enjoying his day despite falling from the tree. Hinata awoke to boxes of cinnamon buns all around her, and after assuring Naruto she wasn't mad, she listened as he spoke. "Hina-chan, I like you. Will you be my girlfriend?" Naruto said quickly with a bow. Fighting to stay conscious, Hinata was only able to nod and lean in for another kiss which Naruto gave her. Time skip little over a year. Hiruzen Sarutobi, third Hokage, was sitting in his office rubbing his temples after the Civilian Council's latest attempt to bar Naruto from being a shinobi. Their argument was his lack of loyalty to the village. Naruto had shown no love for the villagers or Konoha even after the attempts on his life ended a couple years ago. Hiruzen knew Naruto's only connections to the village were himself, Irika of the academy, who despite his fear and hate, treated Naruto like a normal student, even showing interest in his well-being. And lastly, Hinata Hyuga and a few of the Hyuga clan. The clan itself began to view Naruto in a positive light because of his potential and the effect he has on their clan heir, who was now ranked first in the academy. Though Hiruzen and the Hyuga clan knew Naruto was the strongest. In the council meeting, the elders Koharu and Hamura argued Naruto could not be trusted on a normal Genin team, as he could escape from a Jonin sensei that had to watch two other Jonin on a mission. While Sakuri argued he'd lose control or kill a teammate to make up for lost time. Danzo even offered that his potential was wasted and that, with his obscure bloodline and massive reserves of chakra, he should be an army killer by now, not to mention the Kyuubi. Which Danzo in fact did mention. The Shinobi Council even showed concerns when Tsum mentioned his lack of any love for the village paired with his sensei's betrayal. This led to Hiruzen clarifying that Naruto was never aware of who Crow was. After another 10 minutes of bickering back and forth between the civilian and Shinobi councils, Shikaku Nara, head of the Nara clan and the Jonin captain, proposed a compromise. Naruto would be paired on a team with Kakashi Hatake and Hinata Hyuga, with the third genin being optional. Kakashi, being one of the strongest Jonin of the village, would be hard to shake, and with his dog summons, Naruto would be easier to track. Hinata Hyuga is virtually the only kid of his age group who isn't afraid of him. He killed over 30 people before his 11th birthday, often brutally. Not to place blame, it was in defense, but the kids barely breathe around him. He switched the unnerving fake smile around a year ago for an emotionless mask and an oichi, and I believe he is accepting his situation and in some way is coping instead of rejecting his emotion outright. Hinata would be able to work with Naruto as well as bridge the gap with their last teammate, in hopes that he builds more connections and bonds in the village. Her Byakugan paired with his exceptional sensory ability could allow them, depending on the last member, to form a tracking and infiltration team, a heavy assault and guard team, or a combination of the two. Being the most logical compromise proposed, the Shinobi Council quickly agreed, with the Civilian Council begrudgingly following. Next was the uproar on who would be the last teammate. In the end, they decided it would be Shino. The Civilian Council realized the last Uchiha wouldn't be taught by Kakashi, and the shit hit the fan. Hiruzen had already resigned himself to deal with the council's bullshit one more time, so he said nothing and listened. Sakuri wanted Uchiha and her daughter on Kakashi's team in place of the Demon Brat and Shino. Danzo asked for Naruto, Sasuke, and Hinata on a team under a member of his personal guard. Hiruzen chuckled at this one. Koharu wanted the Uchiha under Kakashi but didn't want to risk his safety with Naruto. Shibi Aburame agreed that Sasuke should be with Kakashi, but Shino was a better fit with Hinata and Naruto. When Hiruzen had had enough, he said he'd assign the team a new sensei who he knew would be able to handle the job, and Sasuke would get Kakashi as his sensei. Naruto awoke for the day of his team placements giddy with excitement, though he'd never show it, seeing as he had a reputation to hold. Putting on the fake smile became too hard, so Naruto switched his metaphorical mask to a blank, unemotional one. The people of his village knew him only as a vicious killer who lived to take lives. Something that was only slightly true. While Naruto felt like killing ensured his survival, he didn't like it too much. He'd spoken with Hinata only a few times about the times he'd killed, and she didn't like but never blamed him. She would say the village made him who he was, and that she was surprised that he even held up as well as he did. It helped assure him that he wasn't the demon they all thought he was. He decided to take it in stride. He would be the demon who chained the sky if it meant he was safe. Naruto Uzumaki would survive. As he made his way to the academy, he reviewed the results of his training. He even pondered on how far Hinata had come. Over the last year, since recreating and unlocking Mokutan Chakra, Naruto and Hinata have been on another self-imposed mission. Hinata committed herself to being a taijutsu expert. She'd even begun creating her own version of the Juken. She called it a flowing palm. Using her water affinity chakra, she's able to increase her flexibility and speed for a fighting style where she moves quick and gracefully, constantly flowing from attack to defense as opposed to the rigid, gentle fist. She had nearly mastered Force Suiton. Water-style attacks. She knew 1 D-rank, Suiton Ryuzaban water-style water whip, 2 C-rank Suiton Mizu Bunshin water-style water clone, and Suiton water wall, and even a B-rank she nearly mastered, Suiton Hahanryu water-style tearing torrent. Naruto had his own objectives. He'd begun creating a kenjutsu style using his katana and his chains. If he would describe it in one word, viscous. The style incorporated speed at its core with a majority of slashes and chops with his katana while his chains strike rapidly and unpredictably covering his weak spots yet still able to transition to a strong defense. He recently incorporated more acrobatic maneuvers to better make use of his chain and deal out more consecutive attacks. What made the style truly viscous was his chain's ability to channel lightning chakra, while he coated his katana with wind chakra. His chains would shock and stun, and his wind-coated katana could cut through most things. The only drawback was the concentration needed to maintain. For now, he can keep it going for 5 minutes at most. What came easiest was his ninjutsu and of course his fuinjutsu. Aside from furthering his skills in fuinjutsu, which he regrettably neglected from time to time, he and Hinata found certain uses for his seal absorption and copying ability. Copying a flash tag and an explosive tag which took him more than a few minutes to copy. His ability to copy definitely isn't as fast as an Uchiha's. He found that to place seals he'd copied he had to do it with his chakra, which while more convenient would usually be much more difficult. To Naruto, once he copied a seal, he could place the seal on almost anything. He could place an explosive seal on a blade of grass and the explosion would be more or less what he wanted. He could do the same with flash seals, but whatever he places them on dictated their effectiveness. His Mokuton chakra was effective and he even managed to create 2 jutsu. Mokuton splinter spears a jutsu where spears of wood shoot from the ground or any wooded constructs he infuses with chakra, and Mokuton bunker a defensive jutsu where either a half dome or dome of wood raises from the ground and can be used in conjunction with Mokuton splinter spears. Naruto knew some wind-style Futon Gale Palm C rank, Futon Great Breakthrough D rank, Futon Air Bullets B rank. He only knew a couple lightning, Raitun, Jutsu, Raitun, Jibashi C rank or lighting-style electromagnetic murder, allows him to produce a strong electric current from his hands. He also knew Raitun Jinraisen, or lightning-style thunderclap arrow B rank where he shoots a quick bolt of lighting chakra from his hands. The size depends on the amount of chakra. Naruto and Hinata had a nasty little habit of distracting KO, and having Naruto transform into KO to gain access to the Chunin section of the Shinobi Library. Since the civilians working thought Hyugas were scary, all Naruto ever had to do was give the patented Hyuga stink face and walk right through. Naruto arrived at the academy at the same time as Hinata, seeing as he could sense her from a kilometer away and she could see him from that far through objects. You could say it was a coincidence. Naruto's hair was the same spiky mess as Kanon. He wore a mesh under a black long sleeve shirt with matching Uzumaki swirls on the front and back, black baggy shinobi pants with the ankles wrapped in with tape, and black shinobi sandals. He had a kunai holster on both legs, and a pouch for shuriken and supplies on his belt line with a storage scroll secured to the top of his pouch. His short katana was secured diagonally across his back. Although Naruto loved his orange jumpsuit, he'd finally come to accept that Hinata wouldn't cook him food anymore if he wore orange as his shinobi outfit. Hinata had her signature Heim-style cut. She wore a mesh shirt under, a dark blue long-sleeve shirt with the wrists wrapped, light gray shinobi pants, and blue sandals. Under her sleeves were hidden kunai storage seals courtesy of Naruto. She had a sunban holder on her right leg and a large pouch on her back for shuriken, medical supplies, and a bento lunch for 2. They sat in the back and awaited Irika, and as other students filed into the classroom, 2 of the fangirls, Ino and Sakura, began fighting over who was going to sit next to Sasuke when Kiba was already seated next to him. They began screeching at each other and then at Kiba, eventually knocking him into Sasuke that ended with Kiba involuntarily kissing Sasuke. This set off every fangirl in class who began screeching in a horrible symphony. Naruto, who was greatly annoyed, materialized a single chain about as thick as his leg and long enough to make a point and allowed it to fall onto the walkway, jolting the whole class as the chain rattled to the ground. Naruto then slowly dragged it back into his hand, letting it slide across the ground for dramatic effect. From the moment the class saw the chain, no one made a sound. The fangirls all silently found a seat. The students barely breathed while Naruto looked on with his emotionless mask. Hinata just giggled and gave Naruto a playful, yet still half-serious glare. Naruto was laughing hysterically inside, but he showed no emotion on his face. A few minutes later, the Uchiha gave one of their infamous grunts with a prompt MPH. Seeing there were no chains impaling him, the rest of the class released their breaths and slowly began to talk again with their inside voices just in time for Irika to enter the class. He wondered why they were so calm and orderly today but decided not to look a gift horse in the mouth. Naruto zoned out as Irika began his speech on what it was to be a ninja, and the responsibility they would now hold and the other stuff he didn't care for. Irika also recognized Hinata Hyuga as the Rookie of the Year officially, to which Naruto even cracked a smile. The broody Uchiha gave the Hyuga a quick glare. Irika then began going through the list of teams, and when he arrived at Team 7 Naruto heard his name and began to pay attention. Team 7 Naruto Uzumaki, Hinata Hyuga, and Shino Aburame, and your Jonin sensei will be Yamato Tenzo. Team 8 will be Ino Yamanaka Shikamaru Nara and Choji Akimichi under Asuma Sarutobi. Team 10 will be Sakura Haruno Kiba Inazuka and Sai under Kurinai Yuhi. Sasuke Uchiha will be put under an apprenticeship with Kakashi Hatake and will rotate in other Genin teams. Sasuke smirked at hearing this. He was an Uchiha elite. Even though the Hyuga stole Rookie of the Year, he would show the superiority of the Uchiha clan. Much to the fangirls' silently lament, they weren't on the same team as Sasuke, although most of the class felt lucky to not be in Shino's shoes. Hinata seems to get along with Naruto, but Naruto talked to no one else, and as far as the rest of the students in the class knew, everyone else's life was forfeit. The sensei for Team 7, Yamato, was the first to arrive and leave with his genin. He led Naruto, Hinata, and Shino to Training Ground 7, where he prompted the trio to introduce themselves. Naruto, with a face showing no emotion, simply said, "I'm Naruto Uzumaki and I plan on becoming the strongest shinobi to ever live. Ramen is the food of the gods and my hobbies are studying chakra and training with Hinata." Yamato and Shino were surprised at the first two statements but showed little of it. Hinata began just loud enough for you to hear without straining. "I'm Hinata Hyuga and I plan on becoming one of, if not the strongest kunoichi in the world. Cinnamon buns are better than ramen, and my hobbies are developing my taijutsu style and training with Naruto." She earned a light glare accompanied by a small smirk from Naruto while she displayed an innocent smile. Once again shocked at the light teasing that didn't get Hinata killed. Shino went next in a stoic tone. "I'm Shino Aburame. I hope to become a worthy and logical clan head and jonin for my village. I like to study and find new bugs." Hinata kindly waved while Naruto inclined his head towards Shino very slightly. Yamato ended things off with, "I'll be your Jonin sensei for the foreseeable future. You can call me Yamato." Yamato gave an awkward smile at his two stoic students and bubbly Hinata. "First things first, you need to pass the real Genin exam." Naruto narrowed his eyes and slightly tilted his head while Hinata quietly asked, "Didn't we pass the exam in the academy?" Yamato nodded he had and responded, "Yes, but in truth that exam's only a preliminary to weed out those who don't have the potential to make it as a shinobi. After you're assigned a team is when your Jounin sensei gives you your real Genin test." Yamato finished and gave his Genin time to think about what he'd just said. He then continued, "We can take the test today or you can wait until tomorrow morning to prepare." Naruto speaking for everyone, "We'll take it now." No one voiced their objections, so Yamato began explaining the test. "For this test you are to find and capture me before 1 p.m., giving you slightly over 3 hours. I want you to go to the academy. Once there your test begins. I will be either in these training grounds or within 100 meters of it." Dismissed. Yamato disappeared in a swirl of leaves, leaving the three genin to formulate a plan. Naruto gave Hinata a look and motioned to Shino before leaving in a shunshin. Shino looked at Hinata with a questioning glance. Before he could question, Hinata put a hand on his shoulder and used a shunshin to follow Naruto to the academy. Yamato, who was watching from inside a tree, raised an eyebrow at their knowledge of the body flicker technique so young. This meant he wouldn't have as much time as he thought to prepare. He'd planned on placing a few traps, but with less time he decided to make things interesting. He'd keep them searching for a couple hours and give them whatever time they had left to capture him. Unless they were completely inadequate, Yamato was planning on allowing them to catch him near the end of the time they had. Quickly going through hand signs, Yamato made 2 mud clones and with another hand seal, a shadow clone. The mud clones would hide at Chunin and Genin levels of stealth, while his shadow clone would hide and suppress its chakra to the level of a standard Jounin. Yamato himself would erase his presence to Umbu standards and hide in a tree, one of his most undetectable stealth. The Academy Naruto had arrived a few seconds before Hinata and Shino. The first to speak, Naruto said, "Does anyone have a plan?" Shino spoke coolly. "To formulate the best plan, it would be logical of us to give a basic overview of each other's skills first, and then form a plan." Naruto nodded with his unemotional expression. They took the next few minutes explaining to each other their basic abilities, and after a moment of thought Hinata had a plan. "I have an idea I think might work. Yamato-sensei has definitely prepared obstacles to obstruct us from finding him. Along with his rank as a Jounin, he'll be able to erase his presence to some extent. I think Naruto-kun should make 9 shadow clones to transform into our team. The first 2 groups will search using his sensory ability while the third group acts as the real team. The third group will move more cautiously and search more thoroughly until we identify his whereabouts from afar. If he's attempting to stay hidden from the clones instead of us, we'll have a better chance of spotting him. When we find him, our first priority should be getting one of Shino's bugs onto Sensei. Me and Naruto will engage it close to mid-range while you hide and attempt to drain his chakra. Thinking the plan over, Shino found it to be logical and nodded at Hinata, earning a newfound respect for her rational thought process. Naruto, who was expecting a plan from the beginning, merely nodded with a very slight smirk which did not go unnoticed by Shino. Forming a cross-hand seal, Naruto created the 9 clones, 6 who hinged into either Hinata or Shino, forming 3 teams that disappeared in a shunshin, the Hinatas holding onto Shino to act the part. Shino had left a few bugs on each of the clones just in case. Naruto then disappeared in a shunshin, and after a familiar look and motion to Hinata, she grabbed Shino's shoulder and followed suit. Well behind the 100-meter perimeter their sensei had set, the genin hopefuls began to use their various specialties to search for their sensei. Shino released a swarm of bugs to comb the forest bug by bug. Hinata activated her Byakugan, which could see the entire training ground, although she'd need to focus in specific directions to actually find her sensei, and that would take time. Naruto activated his Saigan. He hadn't told anyone beside Hinata yet, and though he wasn't going to necessarily hide it from his team, he had no intentions of telling them unless they asked. Naruto was immediately able to spot 2 chakra signatures, one in the middle of the training grounds hiding terribly and one 50 meters to the east of the last one hiding better but not good enough to really be their sensei. Naruto looked at Hinata and Shino and asked, "Have you found the 2 clones hiding like Genin and Chunin?" Hinata nodded and motioned to their directions. Wondering why Naruto seemed to search with his eyes, Shino nodded and added, "I believe the first 2 teams of clones have given chase. I also lost a group of bugs in the northwestern side of the training grounds. I believe Yamato would be around there. Should we search personally?" Hinata and Naruto began searching that way with their jujitsu, further confusing Shino, who kept his thoughts to himself. Naruto saw a small flame of chakra and pointed for 150 meters that direction on the ground. Hinata focused her Byakugan, veins bulging. She said, "I see him hiding in the hollow of a tree covered by vines, branches, and thick overgrowth. I think we should send the third team. He might have a trap lined up." Naruto and Shino nodded while Naruto made another shadow clone and dispelled it, causing Shino to raise an eyebrow. Naruto gave an impassive look until he spoke coolly. When clones are dispelled, it sends its memories back to the user. It works with other shadow clones as well. Shino replied, "I see. That technique will become a useful tool for our team, Naruto-san." Naruto simply gave the slightest of smirks and let a sliver of pride touch his eyes. As Team 3 made their move to sneak up on Yamato, Hinata watched to ensure they didn't lose him while Shino used his bugs and Naruto his eyes and senses to find any surprises Yamato may have planned. While watching his final group of clones make their way towards Yamato, Naruto briefly saw a chakra signature move from one of the trees that would be in the clone's path. The chakra signature moved quickly and disappeared into another tree. Naruto closed his eyes and expanded his senses to the area he'd just seen the chakra. It took him about a minute to single out the tree with something off. He locked his senses on the strange feeling and opened his eyes, focusing on the tree. Eventually, even from 200 meters away, he could see the integration of Mokutan chakra within the tree. He could even see the unique chakra signature that definitely wasn't the Shodai's. This meant 2 things: his sensei used Mokutan, and he'd found him with over 2 hours to spare nonetheless. Naruto, without losing sight of his sensei, spoke, "216 meters north of us are real senseis hiding in a tree with some sort of jutsu. He's watching Clone Team 3, so if we hurry, we may be able to take him by surprise." Shino looked at Naruto and asked, "Are you sure?" Naruto nodded and Shino began to slowly send his bugs to the location. "I'll go first with Naruto right behind me and Shino fall back and try to remain unseen until we have him, and use surprise attacks with your bugs, or to guide him into positions favorable to us." Shino replied by falling behind to remain hidden. Naruto gave Hinata a small smile and asked, "Ready, Hina-chan?" She gave a red-faced glare before reactivating her Byakugan and speeding ahead, as she could remain in stealth at a higher speed than Naruto. Hinata arrived at the tree where Yamato was hiding and sent a strong jukin strike into the truck, ejecting her wide-eyed sensei from the tree. Yamato was impressed when he initially saw 3 identical teams searching for him, but figured the shadow clone would be enough to throw them off his trail if they were even able to find it on their own. Even a team of sensory genin would find it to be a monumental task. Without a matured Byakugan, rookie Hyugas are extremely limited to how far and what they can see in one direction at a time, and to find shadow clones she'd likely need to be close. Shino's bugs can be detected and killed before his exact location was given away. And though he didn't know much of Naruto's sensory abilities, his file had only mentioned a sensory range of 15 meters, although a very in-depth perception. If he steered clear of all three groups, his distractions would be enough. Yamato watched the team he thought to be the real ones come his direction and quickly move trees. Well out of sensory range and with his physical presence and chakra masked by the tree, Yamato wondered just how long his clone could run them around. He could sit in the tree for days. Took very little chakra. Yamato's senses warned of the presence of two genin heading his direction at a fast pace. Knowing Hinata would be able to see him and Naruto would be able to sense him by the time he reached another suitable tree, Yamato opted to hope they were just providing backup to the probable clone team who'd passed a few minutes ago. Yamato was wrong, as Hinata ran straight to his tree and delivered a strong Juken strike to his tree. Fortunately, he had time to switch with a wood clone who put on a show of being wounded to give him time to escape and prolong the test. As he was about to Shunshin away, he heard the whistle of steel slicing through the air. Yamato leaned back to avoid a katana removing his head. His dodge turned into a series of flips, avoiding Naruto's kenjutsu with two chains. The boy was fast, Yamato noted. Hinata appeared behind Yamato with a Juken strike, intending to hit his leg. Yamato parried her wrist and spun, intending to knock her away with a side kick, which ended in a few of his tenketsu closed as Hinata slid under his kick, catching a few points in his leg. Hinata flipped back as a swarm of bugs engulfed Yamato, who poofed away in a puff of smoke replaced by a log. Yamato, hoping for a moment of rest to regain his bearings and analyze the situation, found Naruto going through hand seals. Raitun. Thunderclap arrow Naruto, though, as he pumped twice the required chakra into the jutsu, making the arrow more like a spear as he shot it out of his hands towards his soon-to-be sensei. Yamato barely had time to raise a Mokuton interlocking dome before Naruto's lightning attack impacted his dome. The attack raised dust and splintered pieces of wood, and Yamato used the distraction to burrow under the ground with Doton's subterranean voyage. While underground, Yamato's next move was to slow down Naruto first. He attempted to trap Naruto underground with Doton double suicide decapitation, but Naruto seemed as if he was waiting for him to emerge exactly from where he did. He was sure of it when Naruto made a ram seal and said, "Kai." An explosive seal that Yamato could have sworn was placed directly on the ground went off, and he'd barely had time to replace himself with a log, coming away with minor burns. To Yamato's surprise, Hinata was able to close two tenketsu in his hand before he tossed a couple shuriken close range, causing her to move and create space. Yamamoto never had time to take advantage, as he had to dodge Naruto's katana from the left, which somehow still cut him. It dawned on him, wind chakra, and once again he was forced on the defensive and back towards a charging Hinata. Yamato made a quick hand seal before shooting a wooden spike out of the palm of both of his hands, with one going towards Naruto and one towards Hinata. Hinata sidestepped the spike and continued her attack. Naruto intercepted the spike with his chains and began going through hand seals, futon gale palm. Thrusting his palm forwards, he sent a compressed gust of wind towards Yamamoto, attempting to force him directly into Hinata. Yamato substituted with a wood clone that received a harsh Juken strike to the back from Hinata. Beginning to wonder where Shino was, Yamato jumped from the bush he was hiding in after feeling Shino's bugs on his legs and back. Yamato was now actually pissed. He was a Jounin and Umbu captain. He wouldn't be ambushed and taken down by genin. Yamato went through a flurry of hand seals, saying, "Would style would pillar party." This was Yamato's version of the Shodai's nativity of a sea of trees. Wooden pillars began erupting from the ground, attempting to grab the genin to be. Since his jutsu was more directed and used vastly less chakra, he could keep it up for at least a few minutes as long as he held his hands in the snake seal. Naruto, while dodging the wooden pillars, focusing mainly on his new Yamato, had to hold the snake to keep it going because it was the same with his Splinter Spear's jutsu. Naruto quickly used a pillar to launch himself into the air, flipping backwards towards Yamato, extending a chain as fast as he could towards his chest. Yamato abandoned the jutsu for the moment to dodge Naruto's chain that rocketed into the ground where he'd just been. He felt something grab his leg and yank him backwards, and he turned to see Hinata with a water whip that she withdrew and settled into an altered Juken stance. Naruto appeared behind him in a shunshin, pinning Yamato between what he'd call a rock and a hard place. Not to mention he heard a faint buzzing sound. Yamato knew kenjutsu and taijutsu were not his strong suit, yet he had no time to weave seals between Naruto's katana and his chains on one side and Hinata with her lethal Juken on the other. After a few brief exchanges between Hinata and Naruto against Yamato, Yamato saw an opening. He dipped under one of Naruto's chains, parried his katana and last chain with the kunais he'd taken out, and went for a kick to Naruto's side. Instead of bruising a rib, his leg painfully hit another one of Naruto's chains coiled into a circle like a shield. Missing the smirk on Naruto's face, Yamato withdrew his leg and started to jump back for space when he noticed the chain he'd kicked was wrapped around his leg with the white tomo tip of his chains embedded ever so slightly in his foot. He rapidly began going through hand seals until Hinata Juken striked his left arm in a crucial tenketsu, cutting off the flow of chakra. Yamato then saw a swirl of Shino's bugs around his legs, and finally he noticed his reserves were dangerously low and he blacked out. Revealing himself from a tree, Shino walked closer to speak with his teammates. I apologize for having my bugs take so much chakra. I did not know Naruto-san could absorb so much chakra so quickly. Logically, we may lose points for this, he said with a neutral expression. Naruto shrugged and offered his view on the situation. He's alive and we caught him. Hinata giggled, and although she felt bad for her sensei, Naruto was right. Hinata dug a food pill and a chakra pill out of her bag, plopped them in Yamato's mouth and covered his nose, causing him to swallow. Now we wait, she said giddily as they'd presumably passed their true genin exam. Shino then spoke with a slight hint of admiration. You two are easily beyond genin level. Me and my bugs could barely even follow your movements, let alone keep up. I know I am weaker than the two of you, but I will do whatever I must to become your equals, as would be most logical for a successful team. Hinata responded softly, thank you Shino, we've been training together for years, so don't push yourself too hard. You'll catch up eventually and we'll both help you, right Naruto-kun? Naruto looked at Shino blankly, and then at Hinata, blank stare meeting stern glare. A moment later, after Shino felt a lone drop of sweat roll down his face, Naruto relented and nodded his head in defeat. Shino thanked his teammates, and the trio of genin waited an hour for their sensei to wake up. When Yamato stirred, he gave a scowl to the gathered genin, partly because he was really beaten, underestimation or not, and the other reason being the pounding headache from chakra exhaustion. As he glared at his genin, only receiving a slight nervous look from Hinata, Yamato couldn't help but be excited for this team of promising genin. Relaxing his gaze, he addressed his genin. I'll be frank, you blew my expectations out of the water. Your strategy was sound and even caught me off guard, as I wasn't expecting you to track me from afar while letting Naruto's shadow clones attract attention and draw out the enemy. Individually, Naruto, your kenjutsu along with your chains combined for a deadly fighting style and with some refinement, could earn you a new moniker. I'm equally surprised by your display on ninjutsu using 2 chakra transformations. Naruto cracked a small smirk from his emotionless expression. Hinata, your Juken is different from what I've seen before, yet further emphasizes not engaging a Hyuga in taijutsu. It's truly a fast and fearsome style. Your ninjutsu was timed perfectly and complemented your style of fighting, even more than what I'd expect from the Rookie of the Year. Hinata was bashful at this and gave a big smile. And Shino, your tactical use of your bugs in conjunction with your ability to stick to the shadows and aid teammates you've just begun to work with is admirable. Shino nodded to this with his stoic expression hidden behind the high collar on his trench coat and goggles, internally buzzing to the praise. Along with a perfectly executed ambush, I'm impressed, you pass. I'd like to hear how you planned the attack and even more, how you found me. Shino's bugs wouldn't be able to pin my exact location and Hinata wouldn't be able to see my body while inside the tree. Normally, a Byakugan user would need to be in close proximity to see chakra in enough detail to discern my exact location. Shino began to explain Hinata's plan and how she'd coordinated their scouting plan and plan of attack. He explained the ease at which they were all able to identify the mud clones from hundreds of meters away, and how they'd discovered his shadow clone but refrained from chasing themselves thanks to Hinata. This led to Naruto explaining how he sensed a chakra presence appear and disappear, and after focusing on the area he was able to pinpoint his chakra presence within the tree. After Hinata's suggestion of formation, the group agreed and executed the ambush in the time window they had. To think Naruto's sensory ability was so strong at a young age is astounding. But with his history, Yamato understood why the only assassin to touch him was a jounin. Hinata's Byakugan was comparable to Umbu he's worked with in the past. Naruto was a prodigy and he believed Hinata was a gifted genius. Shino, while more of a normal genin, had high potential, leaving Yamato with a lot to ponder until time to meet with the Hokage tomorrow night. He instructed his team of genin to meet him the day after tomorrow at these same training grounds and disappeared via Shunshin. The genin stood there awkwardly for a moment and Hinata broke the silence by asking Shino to accompany Naruto and herself to Ichiraku ramen shop to get to know each other better. Shino simply nodded, muttering something about it being most logical. Hinata dragged Naruto along, who outwardly was impassive, but inwardly drooling at the prospect of his favorite food. The three genin took a seat at the stand and were greeted by Ayam, Hinata, and to Shino's surprise, Naruto gave a big smile to Ayam. Ayam then asked how her favorite couple was doing, causing Hinata to turn a slight tint of red and Naruto to simply smile in return before responding, "We're good, thanks. We came in to get to know our teammate Shino. It's nice to see you." Naruto, who'd returned to his emotionless expression, spoke with a small glint of excitement in his voice. Shino's curiosity once again piqued at the mystery called Naruto Uzumaki. He and the rest of the clan's children knew Naruto was said to have defended himself with all the people he's killed, yet he'd always been eerily quiet. Even years back when Naruto always had a big goofy smile, kids would never go near him. Naruto would show no emotion other than the smile, leading himself and others to believe he really was just an emotionless killer, self-defense or not. Once Naruto dropped the smile, it was less unnerving but cemented everyone's belief that he was a monster. Shino, after seeing Naruto interact with Hinata and Ayam, and even to a lesser extent himself and their sensei, he began to redefine his idea of who Naruto was. He even felt the aura of killing intent coming from Naruto lesson throughout the day once they were out of the academy. Ayam began to tease Naruto and Hinata while taking the three genin's orders. Hinata went through various shades of red while Naruto gave light smirks. When Ayam walked away, Hinata began to ask Shino questions about his clan and family. When she asked him about his bugs, even Naruto raised an eyebrow at all he had to say. Toiki Ichiraku, Ayam's father, brought out their food, and when he greeted the group, he gave a fist bump to Naruto. "Thanks, Toiki-oji," Naruto replied as Toiki left to prepare ramen for other customers. After finishing their food and paying their bills with Ayam, who wouldn't leave until Hinata was beet red, Naruto turned to Shino with his unreadable expression. "Shino, we all work well as a team and your bugs are useful. You don't need to fear me, as killing you won't increase my chances of survival. I look forward to working with you." Shino was confused. He knew Naruto had complimented him, but what was that about his chances of survival? Hinata, seeing the perplexed expression on the Aburame breaking through his usual stoic one, decided to translate. "Naruto-kun likes you on our team and probably thinks your bugs are cool, and don't worry about the survival thing. He means he won't harm you and will protect you as a comrade." Naruto just looked at both of them with his unreadable expression. Shino nodded and added, "Thank you, Naruto-san. I look forward to working with you as well." Naruto escorted Hinata back to her compound, and with a quick peck on the cheek, Hinata entered and Naruto disappeared in a shunshin. Chapter 2: Birth of the Crimson Blonde. The next day, all the new Jounin senseis were assembled in front of the Hokage to present the results of the true genin test. The senseis of the teams that failed simply gave a written report and would be brought in if the Hokage had any questions. The passing teams were Team 7, 8, 10, and Team Kakashi. The Hokage had told Kakashi to report 3 hours before he told the other Jounin, and to Kakashi's anguish, he was there 30 minutes early, unable to leave. Hiruzen addressed his gathered Jounin. "Congratulations to all of your teams passing. But before I read your written reports, I'd like to hear from you how your team did, what their specialty could possibly be, and your genin's individual strengths. Who would like to go first?" Asuma Sarutobi, wanting to get this out of the way, stepped forward with a cigarette already lit. "Team 8 passed my test to retrieve a scroll guarded by traps, misdirection, and myself with a bit of difficulty. Shikamaru Nara is in all rights a tactical genius and has a decent grip on his clan jutsu basics, but his physical abilities need a lot of work. Ino Yamanaka has good chakra control for a fresh genin, but is limited to what she can do besides her clan's mind transfer because her physical attributes are the worst on the team. Choji Akamichi would be the hard hitter on the team, as his clan jutsu can be somewhat destructive, although his low stamina may become a concern. They still have the potential to be great shinobi if they work for it." Asuma stepped back as Hiruzen and the gathered Jounin nodded in acknowledgement. Next, Kurenai Yuhi stepped forward. "Team 10 passed my test to track and rescue a Chunin through traces I left for them to find while I ran interference to test their teamwork. While their teamwork was poor under clear instructions to work as a team, they managed to rescue the Chunin assistant. Kiba and Sai are great for tracking, while Sai and, to a much lesser extent, Sakura are able to move quietly and stick to the shadows. Sai's animated drawings are versatile and his close-range combat is possibly better than Kiba's. Kiba and Akamaru have a great nose and know their clan's basic tracking techniques. Taijutsu, his primary strength along with his clan's signature jutsu, although he could do better planning his attacks before jumping in. Sakura was slightly underwhelming as she could hide pretty well, but her physical abilities were lacking and her only contribution was a few well-timed shuriken. Her strength would be her high degree of chakra control. Kurenai stepped back after being acknowledged by the rest of the group. When Yamato stepped forward, Hiruzen and Kakashi looked at him expectantly, as if this was the report they were waiting for. Yamato couldn't help but smirk. Team 7 passed their test with flying colors when tasked to find and capture me, which resulted in them rendering me unconscious after a surprise ambush. Kakashi and Asuma snickered while Hiruzen raised an eyebrow but allowed Yamato to continue. To salvage some form of respect, Yamada gave a detailed rundown of the exam, shocking the occupants of the meeting. His audience was in disbelief that a genin team had such tactical planning on the first day, and their sensory abilities individually and as a team were well beyond their years. Yamato left everyone wide-eyed, and Asuma dropped the cigarette from his mouth when he went over their fight step by step. Hiruzen, whose mind was running a mile per minute at what he'd just heard, asked, "How would you describe their capabilities individually?" Yamamoto answered, "Shino is more of a normal genin with stealth and long-range attacks, with his bugs being his strong suit, although I never engaged him in taijutsu. He has great control and the tactical mind to take advantage of unsuspecting or distracted enemies. Hinata is quite possibly a Chunin-level shinobi already. She has a unique style of the Jukin that's fast and relentless. Frankly, even in single combat I'd avoid a taijutsu fight with her. Her chakra control seemed to be advanced, and I'm not sure to what extent, but Hinata is trained in water manipulation. She used a Suetun water whip to pull me off balance and bring me into range of her Jukin during the fight, and quite possibly her strongest asset would be her mind. She came up with their search plan, their plan of attack, and made the decision not to bite the bait with my shadow clone. Hinata's even faster than most Chunin, which made things tougher." Yamato took a deep breath and let out a sigh. "Naruto is nothing less of a prodigy. He sensed me from hundreds of meters away when I was suppressing my presence to Umbu level while joined with a tree further masking my presence. His kenjutsu was high Chunin, it was fast and viscous, and I still have the cuts to prove it. His unique style using his short katana and his chains leaves no room for counterattacks, and if you get within his guard he can materialize more chain shields. He can infuse wine chakra into his katana, extending the blade for a deadly surprise. His sensory ability at close range makes it nearly impossible to sneak up on him, and somehow that I've yet to find out, he can place explosive seals with no ink or special sealing paper in places not normally possible, like right in the dirt. His speed matched that of Hinata's easily, and his combat awareness was scary. Once they attacked, he never allowed me a moment of rest and even disrupted my hand seals during a continuous jutsu. His control of his chains and chakra in general is near perfect. He used a strong Raitun and a Futon jutsu executed perfectly with no wasted chakra. He's easily Chunin, maybe even Jonin level. Still, I have a hunch he was holding back. He only ever produced 3 chains in the end." Yamato finished his report and left the room in a stunned silence. Naruto's strength, while surprising, was understandable as he had no choice but to be strong or die, yet the full scope of his abilities indeed make him a prodigy. Noon ever questioned why he was in the middle of the class in rank. They knew he did the bare minimum from the beginning. Along with what they'd heard about Hinata, the Hokage and gathered Jounin knew this would immediately become a dangerous team. Kakashi didn't know what to feel about his sensei's son. Kakashi had never been there to protect him because of his duties in Umbu. By the time Kakashi became a regular Jonin and had the time to do something for Naruto, it was too late. Naruto had already begun defending himself and racking up a body count a kid should never have. The village had forced Naruto to become a prodigy, and Kakashi only wondered how it had affected Naruto. So deep in thought, Kakashi failed to notice everyone's eyes on him, waiting for his report. He gave an eye smile in apology and began. "Sasuke Uchiha passed a skills demonstration in which we sparred, and I tested him on the 3 basic shinobi disciplines. Sasuke is skilled in taijutsu, ninjutsu, and projectile weapons. While he cannot yet perform a genjutsu, he can recognize and dispel lower-level genjutsu with little difficulty. His skills with taijutsu and projectiles are at least high genin and will only increase when he awakens his Sharingan. His ninjutsu is low to mid-chunin level with the few katan, fire style, jutsu he knows." Once Kakashi finished, Hiruzen took a puff from his pipe while taking a moment to think over the reports. He then asked the gathered Jounin if they had anything to add or questions to voice. Kurenai was the first to speak. "Hokage-sama, don't you think the teams are too unbalanced? With the 2 strongest genin on one team with Shino, who's very promising in his own right, don't you think it'd be better to trade Shino for Ino or Sakura? Or even Naruto for Sasuke, because if anyone deserves an apprenticeship, it's Naruto?" Asuma motioned to speak, to which Hiruzen nodded. "I'm fine with the Ino Shikacho group, although I understand why you'd want Shino instead of Sakura. You'd be able to have a complete tracking and infiltration team. Also, Naruto would be a better choice for an apprenticeship." Yamato was acknowledged to speak. I do understand that my team is a bit overwhelming for a fresh genin squad, but I believe separating them would do more harm than good. Hinata and Naruto are a scary duo when combining their sensory abilities and coordinated attacks. And Shino fits in well from a distance, covering their backs and tactically using his bugs to place his teammates in a favorable position. I've hardly seen teams that can gel this well, and I doubt any other pairing of genin can compete. Yamato displayed a look of all seriousness to convey the sincerity of his words. Well, Hiruzen began, I believe I'll leave the teams as is. For now, although Kurenai, I hear your concerns. Naruto has little love or loyalty to this village. He's a major flight risk, and I'm hoping that by having him on a genin team will help him build bonds that tie him to the village. He's already well acquainted with Hinata and even some of the Hyuga clan. I myself am not as close as I used to be with the boy, and I honestly can't blame him. He's smart enough to know I've hid things from him, and I failed to even keep the boy protected. At his current strength, we have maybe a year until our Hunter Nin squads are unable to either defeat or find him. As such, I want him to stay on the team with Hinata along with Shino, who Naruto has shown no ill will towards, and has willingly cooperated with. As for your team, you have a decision to make. Is Sakura fit to become a ninja, or did her teammates carry her to success in the exam? Kurenai nodded and responded mindfully, honestly, Hokage-sama, I believe I can prepare her to become a splendid shinobi, if and only if I can break her obsession with the Uchiha. With her level of natural chakra control, Sakura could become a genjutsu master or excellent medic nin. I'd like 3 to 4 months, the time it'd normally take for a genin team to be ready for their first low C-rank mission. Liking the idea, Hiruzen granted her proposal but brought something to her attention. If she isn't fit and she's released as a shinobi, Sasuke would be placed with your genin and Kakashi would take leadership of the team. The council wants him to train the Uchiha and will not budge. Suspecting such an outcome, Kurenai just nodded in confirmation. Hiruzen then dismissed his shinobi, but Kakashi stayed behind to speak to his Hokage. What may I help you with today, Kakashi? Chimed Hiruzen with a knowing smile. Kakashi smiled back but straightened his face when asking his question. How big of a flight risk is he, and what of his mental state? Has he gained a bloodlust for killing? Knowing who he was, Hiruzen gave Kakashi his answers. Naruto has shown no attempt or desire to leave, yet Inoichi has confirmed that he barely sees Konoha as home and holds no love for its people. If someone tempts him to leave, his only reason to stay would be the Hyuga girl. He's always worn a metaphorical mask to hide his true emotions, and a little over a year ago he traded his unnerving smile for an emotionless expression. Inoichi believed this was some sort of progress. He has a bloodlust that only he knows the extent of, which he describes as ensuring his survival, although he's never acted upon it with innocent people. Kakashi took in the information and pondered if there was anything he could do. Kakashi, now that you're here, I have something to speak to you about. Though we've been in times of peace, it's crucial to have another leader ready to take up the mantle of Hokage. Now, although we have the Sannin, only Tsunade would be fit, and I fear convincing her would fail. If it does, you would be next in consideration for the position. The problem with you taking the hat is your strength. Right now you're a high A-rank shinobi, but a Kage can be no less than S-rank to be respected as a major village. I understand you haven't trained to improve your abilities since you left Umbu. May I ask why? Hiruzen said seriously. Hokage-same, I have trained to maintain my current abilities, but in terms of growing stronger, I am limited by my Sharingan. The stronger I grow, the stronger my Sharingan grows, and the worse it hinders my chakra output. As it stands now, it takes almost 40% of my chakra daily and requires significant focus when I'm in battle. If I were able to find a way to fix the problem, I would solidly be a S-rank shinobi. This isn't arrogance, sir. Hiruzen thought over Kakashi's words and wondered what they'd be able to do. If they removed the eye, he'd be around the same strength he is now, but if they found a solution, he'd be much stronger. I see. I want you to train to become as strong as possible, and I'll look over some solutions for your Sharingan. It may take a while, but I believe it's fully possible. Yes, Hokage-sama, Kakashi responded. He then bid Hokage goodbye and disappeared in a shunshin. The next 2 months had Naruto itching to increase his chances of survival. Team 7, after a briefing from Yamato which explained their meeting time every day unless specified, a training program he developed to increase their overall physical abilities and the mission system of the village. To Naruto's great annoyance, new genin teams were required to partake in a minimum of 40 and a recommended 60 D-rank missions before beginning their first C-rank. Naruto has said it was unacceptable, prompting Yamato to assert that there was no way to get around the required number of D-ranks. The team agreed to complete missions 5 days a week to meet the required amount in little less than 3 months. Being relatively menial chores, the D-rank missions usually required a few hours at most, and the longer tasks could be sped up with shadow clones. On the first day of D-ranks, Naruto insisted they do at least one or two more. This became a trend which none of his teammates could complain about because of the lion's share of work done by Naruto's clones. After only 2 months, had completed 108 D-rank missions, having caught Tora the cat 6 times. The last time Hinata was even forced to hide the cat in her arms to stop Naruto from improving his chances of survival. Today, Naruto would have no more D-ranks. With Team 7 making its way to the Hokage's offices, Naruto's aura of ki unwillingly was flaring, much to Shino and Yamato's discomfort. After Team 7 greeted the Hokage, Naruto spoke up, "Hokage Gigi, no more D-ranks. We've completed almost triple the minimum amount of D-ranks required for a C-rank. My chances of survival need improving." Naruto looked at the Hokage with his emotionless expression awaiting his reply. Yamato buried his face into his hand at his increasingly blood-thirsty student. Shino's sweat dropped and Hinata smiled as if she heard nothing unusual. Leveling Naruto with a calm, inquisitive gaze, Hiruzen responded warmly, "Ah, I see, my boy. Well, I've just received a request to escort a bridge builder back to his country and protect him while they finish building a bridge. He'll arrive in Konoha in just a few days. I also have a request to infiltrate a bandit camp half a day away from Konoha to retrieve some important documents for a wealthy trader. Does either one sound good to you and your team?" "Both will be back in 2 days," Naruto responded without hesitation and with a small glint in his eye. Hiruzen looked at Yamato and then the other genin and with collective nods assigned them the first mission with the second on reserves for their return. After a quick briefing, they left to prepare for their mission and departed an hour later. Their mission description was to primarily retrieve the documents. They had a second objective to either sabotage and cripple the bandit group or eradicate them if it was within their abilities. Yamato had a feeling the secondary objective was to sate Naruto's growing bloodlust. They arrived shortly after nightfall and decided to camp for the night, taking turns on watch. Hinata even snuck into Naruto's tent to sleep next to him on their time off watch. In the morning, the group split up into 2, Naruto with Hinata and Shino with Yamato. They used the morning to scout the group's movements and numbers. There were 34 in total. They would send out groups of 8 to rob travelers and caravans while there were always 4 on guard at the camp. 1 in the north, east, and south borders of the camp and 1 guarding the tent with the safe and other valuables. The west side of their camp was unguarded, possibly because the large river with cutting currents they wouldn't expect an attack from that direction. Hinata had even identified their leader. Yamato allowed the genin to take control of the mission to critique their infield performances and would only follow directions unless his genin made a decision that would put them at a great risk. Hinata devised a plan to intercept the 8 bandits on their nightly raiding trip to incapacitate or kill them, removing any unwanted surprises when the bandits return to the camp. Shino and Yamato will create a distraction with Shino's bugs while Naruto and Hinata infiltrate the tent, where the camp keeps its valuables. Hinata should be able to destroy the lock system on their safe with well-placed Juken strikes. Once the documents were secured, they'd begin silently killing or crippling the bandits from each end of the camp, meeting in the middle. Should the bandits be alarmed and begin to plan an attack, they'll have a signal to retreat or engage into open combat. The team agreed with the plan except for Naruto, who suggested he enter the camp and engage the bandits himself after the document was secured. The rest of the team would ensure none escaped. Yamato wasn't so sure of this, but agreed after seeing the feral look in Naruto's eyes. As night fell, Team 7 tracked the group of bandits leaving the camp and intercepted them far enough away from the camp. Naruto immediately used a shunsin to appear in the middle of the group, unleashing 6 chains, instantly impaling and killing 3 of the bandits. He beheaded the next with his katana, then paused and watched the looks of horror he received from the bandits who were frozen in place under his killing intent. With no words said, simply an emotionless expression, Naruto began to butcher the remaining 4 bandits with his katana and chains. Yamato maintained a neutral expression, having seen such things before. Shino was frozen in shock at the ease Naruto took 8 lives without flinching. Even Hinata was slightly shaken. Yamato began to wonder if letting Naruto kill all the bandits in the camp was detrimental to his mental stability, but if the damage was done, they would follow through the plan. Naruto fixed his gaze at his teammates and with a smooth tone said, "Every enemy I kill increases our chances of survival." Hinata knew these words were to assure her and Shino, and strangely enough, they made her feel better. Shino was having a harder time, but he knew Naruto was his comrade and was, in his own way, comforting he and Hinata amidst the mound of bodies he'd just created. Naruto then jumped to the trees heading toward the bandit camp, unable to hold his pure smile in. He chose to be in the front so they wouldn't see how excited he was to increase his chances of survival. When his team reached the bandit camp, they split up to complete their separate duties. Once they were alone, Naruto asked Hinata if she was okay and, more importantly, if she was ready to see what she was about to see. Hinata nodded and gave Naruto a quick kiss, assuring him she wouldn't be scared away, something she knew he'd be worried about. They moved in on the camp waiting for Shino's distraction, and when they heard loud voices and scrambling due to bugs, they began their part of the operation. Naruto silently approached the guardian at the south border of the tent, covering the bandit's mouth as his katana sliced his throat. He and Hinata then stealthily made their way to the target tent. By now Shino and Yamato would have taken care of the guards located on the north and east sides of the camp. As they approached the tent, they noticed two bandits talking to the guard, making their job slightly more complicated. With hand seals, Naruto indicated that he would handle the two on their right while Hinata would make her way around the tent to take care of the guard standing further to their left. Naruto waited for Hinata to make her move. Hinata jumped behind her target and sent a jukin to the base of his skull, severing his spinal cord and scrambling his brains, killing him instantly and silently. When Naruto saw Hinata act, he sent a chain at each of his targets straight through the throat, ensuring they didn't scream, and followed it with a chain to their hearts. Hinata made her way into the tent using her Byakugan to find the intricate locks and used her jukin to destroy the fragile parts. She searched through until she found the target documents and secured them with a storage seal she placed in her pouch. Hinata slowly left the tent to find the bodies gone and Naruto transformed to look like the guard. She gave him a signal that she was successful and left to hide at the borders of the camp to pick off any bandits attempting to escape. By now Shino should be in place in the north and Yamato in the east. Naruto kept up his transformation for 2 minutes after Hinata had left to get into position. More than enough time for her. Walking into the center of the camp, Naruto dropped his transformation jutsu and activated his Saigan. He could see and sense 20 bandits left. Naruto unsheathed his katana and released his chains that clattered to the ground. His chains only sounded like chains if he wanted them to. He could muffle them with chakra at any time. By now most of the bandits had noticed him. They'd begun to shout, and soon all 20 were around him, berating and laughing at the flashy kid's stupidity. One bandit quieted the crowd and stepped forward. He was about 6 feet and 8 inches with scars covering his body, carrying 2 double-sided axes. Naruto recognized him to be the leader as Hinata had described him. This mad had a small bounty on his head. The lead bandit had a gruffly voice and bellowed out, "I don't know what the guards are doing, but if you get on your knees and beg nicely, we'll kill you quickly." The bandit smiled and seemed to enjoy the intrusion, probably thinking about a long night of torture for the boy. It was one of the many acts that led to the bandit's bounty to begin with. Extending the sensory ability his eyes gave him to their maximum, Naruto locked onto every single bandit with his sensory perception. He had no plans of letting any escape, maybe one for Shino to improve his chances of survival, but only maybe. The blue ring around Naruto's eyes was glowing like lanterns in the dark camp, and with a smile Naruto screamed, "You will all improve my chances of survival." And with that he used his near-perfect chakra control to enhance his speed with a condensed burst to his muscles, creating an effect similar to the Shunshin, except more refined and controlled. It was called the Jolt Step because of the effect it initially had on his body. He'd gotten the theory for the jutsu from one of the mysterious scrolls. He disappeared and appeared in front of the lead bandit and, sword mid-swing, cleanly took his head off. Before the head could fall to the ground, Naruto grabbed it and sealed it into a storage seal on the sleeve of his shirt. Flipping backwards while spinning, Naruto swung his chains, slicing into the group of bandits. When he landed, Naruto began his attack, coating his katana with wind chakra and slicing through the bandits, spinning and swinging his chains randomly. Naruto began using his more acrobatic maneuvers, flipping and spinning with his chains, impaling or slicing bandits precisely. Naruto's Saigan boosted his sensory ability to where he never needed to see the bandit to strike accurately. Every swing of his sword had a purpose, and a bandit lost an arm, head, or other body part. It took Naruto less than a minute to kill 16 of the remaining bandits, with the last 4 attempting to run. 2 were headed in Hinata's direction, 1 in Yamato's and 1 in Shino's. He decided to leave Shino a gift. He sent out 3 chains to grab the rest of the bandits. The chains wrapped around their legs and slowly dragged them to Naruto's location. He paid no attention to the screams of fear or when they begged for their lives. Once they were closer, he sent 3 more chains out that impaled the bandits in the back, and he drained their chakra and life away. Shino watched Naruto's attack in shock and awe. He almost didn't even notice the bandit heading his way, but was alerted by his bugs. The bandit's attention was focused on one thing, getting away. He didn't even think twice about the buzzing sound that seemed to surround him. As Shino had his bugs drain his chakra, he wondered if he should stop them before the bandit died. He got his answer as he simply watched the bugs drain the bandit until he died. It was most logical to make his first kill on a mission like this rather than on a mission where his life was in danger if he hesitated. The group met with the now expressionless Naruto, noticing his eyes glowing for a split second before he deactivated them, and they dimmed. After setting fire to the camp and ensuring it didn't spread with Hinata's and Yamato's water jutsu, they made their way back to the village and submitted their report to the Hokage. Hinata and Shino were shaken after their first kills, although Naruto seemed calmer than ever. The Hokage questioned the genin on if they were ready to participate in another C rank the next day. All three assured him that they were ready mentally and physically. He dismissed the genin to discuss Naruto with Yamato. Yamato explained what he'd seen of Naruto's bloodlust, and they were both pleased to know Naruto wouldn't lose himself and forget about his comrades. Yamato also mentioned what he'd seen of Naruto's eyes. Yamato thought he'd seen Naruto's eyes glow from his position in the trees, but it was confirmed when the team joined Naruto after the bandits were gone. For a split second, he'd seen a glowing blue ring in Naruto's eyes. He believed it had something to do with Naruto's sensory ability, but it couldn't be a jujutsu. Could it? Yamato thought aloud. The Hokage took a deep breath and said the only way to know for sure is to have someone with a jujutsu to see him with it activated. Hiruzen then got an idea. He told Yamato that he'd let Kakashi lead his team on their mission to Waves because the Sharingan would be able to tell if it was a jujutsu. Sasuke was also getting grumpy about the D-rank missions, and this would quiet him up for a while. Yamato thought it was a good idea and would gladly take the day off. Morning of the next day, the genin of Team 7 were waiting for their substitute sensei and their client, Tazuna, at the village gates. The Hokage had informed them that their sensei had to join a mission with another team and that another Jounin sensei who's already been briefed would meet them at the gates. Team 7 waited for more than 30 minutes before the scarecrow-looking Jounin appeared with the broody Uchiha. Seeing the girl who beat him for Rookie of the Year and the blonde kid everyone was afraid of, Sasuke gave an arrogant smirk. Being apprenticed and not on a regular team, Sasuke spent more time training with Kakashi than he did going on D-ranked missions. Over the last 2 months, he awakened his Sharingan in a spar where Kakashi made him believe he was going to die. He'd learned to fight on surfaces, use ninja wire, and even a few more Ketan ninjutsu. Sasuke was sure he was the strongest genin. Naruto was just a rampaging orphan living off a reputation of killing civilians in Sasuke's mind. Kakashi greeted Team 7 and introduced Sasuke. He met 2 stoic faces and a smile from Hinata. After receiving nods, Kakashi greeted Tazuna, who wanted to make a remark about finally meeting a real ninja, but thought better of it because he felt an ominous aura coming from the blonde. After Kakashi ran an equipment check with his foster team, they departed in a modified diamond formation with Naruto and Hinata leading Tazuna in the middle, Sasuke on the left, and Shino on the right with Kakashi following. Their best sensors are in front with a long-range and close-range fighter on the sides of Tazuna with Kakashi protecting their backs was Kakashi's reasoning. Half a day out from Konoha, Naruto sensed 2 chakra presences yet only saw a puddle. With a quick activation and deactivation, Naruto had seen 2 chakra presents hiding in the puddle through some jutsu, similar to how their sensei hid in a tree, but these 2 weren't that good at suppressing their chakra, so it was kinda obvious. Naruto scratched his head and made a quick hand sign alerting his team. As he drew near, he burst forward going through hand seals. Raitun? Electromagnetic murder. Naruto muttered to himself as he aimed a current of electricity towards the puddle, while Shino and Sasuke took position in front of the client and Hinata behind Naruto. Water shot out of the puddle and condensed to form 2 screaming shinobi wearing hidden mist headbands with a line going across. The shinobi furthest away from Naruto jumped away and fell to a knee. Seeing this, Naruto pumped more chakra into the jutsu until the shinobi died, his body steaming. Hinata took advantage of her opponent's weakened state. Using a light version of Naruto's jolt step, she sped towards the recovering shinobi and began closing chakra points. Hinata managed to close 12 before the missing Nin swung, his bladed gauntlet at Hinata, forcing her to dip under the swipe before disabling his arms and legs. Kakashi, who stood back ready to intervene, clapped at the 2 genins' performance but questioned how Naruto knew they were enemies and why he'd attack with no provocation. Naruto explained his ability to sense emotions and negative intentions while pointing out the suspicious circumstances in which the shinobi were hiding was cause for immediate action. Kakashi nodded while once again praising the genin's quick and effective actions. He made his way to the missing Nin and began to question him on his motives and, more importantly, his target. Naruto listened carefully to ascertain whether he needed to improve his chances of survival some more. The missing nin refused to answer and continued to curse the blonde for killing his brother. Kakashi needed to know who the target was because depending on the answer, their current mission could be bumped to a B or even in a rank. He would have to use advanced interrogation tactics. Kakashi explained this all to his foster team and Naruto asked to try a method of interrogation he developed with Hinata. Kakashi warned Naruto that they needed the missing nin alive for the time being, but his curiosity got the better of him at what two genin, prodigy or not, could do to break a seasoned chunin in the bingo book. He gave Naruto a nod and asked if Hinata was sure, to which he gave him a calm nod and stood next to Naruto, who'd moved to the missing nin. Naruto intentionally made sure their backs were facing the rest of the team so that the Uchiha wouldn't start copying their jutsu. The technique involved Hinata using a very weak version of her Suetun tearing torrent while he uses a weak version of his Raitun electromagnetic murder to send a steady current with ever-increasing pulses, and its strength depended on his chakra output. The technique took a lot of control not to fry the target in an uncontrolled pulse, but they could keep it up for almost an hour. They went through the hand seals and began their jutsu. Hinata constantly soaking the missing nin while making it hard to breath, and Naruto sending waves of electricity into the missing nin's body. Naruto motions for Kakashi, who questions the missing nin once again. With a profanity instead of an answer, Naruto sent a pulse of electricity, making the ninja scream. They repeated this process about a dozen more times until Kakashi believed he got everything he could out of the ninja. He motioned for Naruto and Hinata to stop before stabbing the missing nin in the heart with a kunai. If he didn't, he knew Naruto would, and Kakashi believed Naruto had enough kills under his belt. From the missing nin, they learned that their target was Tazuna, and they were hired by Gato to kill him before he returned to the Land of Waves. The Demon Brothers, as the two missing nin were called, happened to be the first ninjas Gato had hired, although the missing nin believed he might hire another. Tazuna was questioned next and reluctantly explained the poor state of his country due to the monopoly Gato held in the area and his widespread illegal dealings. Tazuna was building a bridge to connect to the mainland, so the country would no longer rely on Gato's shipping company. Kakashi understood but had to make a decision with the lives of his foster genin in mind. He asked the opinions of his team, and after unanimous agreement they decided to proceed on the mission. The rest of that day was an uneventful trip for everyone except a certain Uchiha having a mental battle. Aside from the fact that he received no part of the action, he was outshone by the orphan and the Hyuga. Sasuke Uchiha was seething. He was the elite and he should have been the one to put the chunin missing nin down. They were 2/3 of the way there by nightfall, so they decided to make camp for the night and head out in the morning. Hinata snuck into Naruto's tent once again to cuddle for the night between shifts. Shino and Kakashi noticed the sleeping arrangements but said nothing. They all woke at sunrise and departed after a brief breakfast. After traveling a few hours, they met with a man who owned a small ferry and had agreed to help them reach the Land of Waves. Traveling the long way on foot would take an extra day of travel, which is something to avoid when escorting a client. The ferryman returned to the mainland after dropping them off on the coast of the Land of Waves a few kilometers away from the docks near Tazuna's home. They began the final stretch to Tazuna's home, alert for any attackers. While they were walking, Naruto sensed a chakra presence in the bushes to the left, so he sent a chakra chain where he felt the presence. The group stopped and assumed a defensive position around Tazuna. A white rabbit jumped from the bushes and Hinata narrowed her eyes. Naruto would be able to tell if he had sensed a rabbit, and only rabbits raised inside would be white in this climate. It was a substitution. Hinata spoke to her group. "Get down!" Kakashi screamed. And not even a second later, a large sword over 5 feet long came spinning in the air towards their direction. It looked like a butcher knife with a half-circle missing from the top half. Shino pulled Tazuna down with him as Kakashi and the rest of his genin dropped to the ground. Naruto was still standing, surprising Kakashi, but he understood why when Naruto materialized 4 chains that swirled together, forming a shield that blocked the large sword and pushed Naruto back a few inches. Zabuza appeared in front of Naruto and grabbed his sword, going directly into a swipe at Naruto that was stopped by 2 kunai held by Kakashi. Naruto shot his chains at Zabuza, causing him to jump back. Activating his Saigen, Naruto felt 2 more chakra signatures close by, probably watching for an opportunity to jump in. Naruto spoke quickly, "1 more in the trees 10 meters northeast and another one 17 meters west of us." Hinata, whose Byakugan was already activated, searched the coordinates Naruto gave and replied, "The one to the west seems to be a mist hunter nin by the mask, and the one northeast of us has a hidden rain headband on." Kakashi nodded, eyes firmly planted on the enemy shinobi. Kakashi recognized him from the bingo book. "Zabuza Momochi," Kakashi said, identifying the shinobi who'd attacked them. The now identified Zabuza laughed and replied, "Kakashi of the Sharingan, the copy ninja. Maybe I'll take that eye when I'm done killing you and your genin." Zabuza went through a few quick hand seals while releasing a pressing killing intent that brought Tazuna to his knees. Sasuke, Hinata, and Shino began to sweat but held their positions. Hinata and Shino had felt Naruto's ki and it was comparable to Zabuza's. Sasuke had learned to withstand killing intent from Kakashi, hence his Sharingan. Naruto simply matched Zabuza's ki along with Kakashi. A thick mist began to gather around the area, quickly making it hard to see even a foot in front of them. Naruto knew exactly where Zabuza was, as he could see his chakra signature clear as day even through the dense fog of chakra obscuring his vision. Zabuza began a monologue to prepare his prey for the kill. There are 9 weak points of the body that can be used to instantly kill a target. So many choices. The heart, the brain, the liver, the... Zabuza was cut off when Naruto yelled, "Futon de Tuppa," great breakthrough. A strong gust of wind lasting about 5 seconds blew through the area they were in, clearing the mist for everyone to see. Kakashi gave Naruto a quick thanks and instructed his sensory genin to keep an eye on their other guests while he took down Zabuza. Zabuza scowled at the blonde. He hated wind-style users. "Aoi, get out here and handle the genin," ordered Zabuza. A ninja with a hidden rain headband appeared next to Zabuza in a shunshin. "I thought you said you had it, oh mighty demon of the mist," the now revealed Aoi said with a chuckle, although he was ignored by Zabuza. Aoi Rokusho, Konoha missing nin who stole the Raijin no Ken. Now affiliated with the Hidden Rain Village, Aoi Rokuso works closely with Hidden Rain ninja Kazuma Kurosagi. They are known as the Twin Blades of the Hidden Rain. Recited Hinata from memory of the bingo book Yamato-sensei had his team study. Hinata looked at Naruto and said, "He has the sword you want and his comrade Kazuma could be the other ninja in the trees." Naruto's eyes narrowed at this and Kakashi knew he felt a need to improve his existence. "Naruto, Hinata, I want you to take Aoi since you already have information on him. Shino, Sasuke, guard the client. There's still one more unknown ninja who can attack at any time." Sasuke began to argue, but the killing intent he received when he opened his mouth to object made him keep his objections to himself. Kakashi rushed to engage Zabuza while Naruto jolted to Aoi and with just a ram seal used Futon Gale Palm with his other hand. Aoi was sent flying into the surrounding forest with Naruto and Hinata following. Kakashi entered in a short exchange with Zabuza, attempting to fool each other with Mizu Bunshin, water clones. When they disengaged, Zabuza made about 5 more Mizu Bunshin who looked as though they were going to attack Kakashi but continued on to attack the last 2 genin and Tazuna. Kakashi spared a glance to Sasuke and saw him already on the move. His moment of distraction allowed Zabuza a chance to swing the Kubikirabocho, the sword's name, at Kakashi's midsection, intending to cleave him in half. Kakashi flipped over the sword but had to dodge another one from a Mizu Bunshin made by Zabuza with no hand seals. Kakashi fell off balance and was caught in the side by a spinning kick from Zabuza's clone, sending him flying towards a nearby stream. Zabuza appeared where he was landing. Already having gone through hand seals, Zabuza held out his hand and a sphere of chakra engulfed and trapped Kakashi just as Sasuke finished off Zabuza's Mizu Bunshin. Kakashi wanted to tell them to run, but he trusted his apprentice and they couldn't leave the other genin. Kakashi settled for a make him remove his hand, which Sasuke could read with his Sharingan. Kakashi began infusing his lungs with chakra to buy him time. Zabuza made seals with 1 and then 10 Mizu Bunshin appeared around him and charged at Sasuke. Clones or not, Sasuke wouldn't be able to dodge and counter Zabuza without his Sharingan and barely with it activated, so he chose a different strategy. Sasuke went through hand seals and with a Katan Phoenix Fire Jutsu, he sent multiple basketball-sized fireballs into the charging Zabuzas and taking out 3. He then threw shuriken which all the Zabuzas dodges until Sasuke pulled the ninja wire. He'd wrapped around the shuriken capturing 2 more, and with some more shuriken they were dispelled. Sasuke was then forced to dodge Zabuza's huge as the clones reached him. He managed to dispel 1, but it would take time to dispel the last 4 and Zabuza could probably create more. Sasuke dodged and weaved between the Zabuza clones until he saw an opening. He jumped off the side of one of the large blades and backflipped, landing near Shino. He unsealed a 3-foot-long demon wind shuriken, intending to find an opening to throw it at the real Zabuza when Shino spoke. "Sasuke-san, I have a logical plan, but I need to see that shuriken, quickly." Sasuke, not understanding why he'd need the shuriken, but quickly gave it to him and re-engaged the clones. A few seconds later, Sasuke saw a swarm of bugs surround him and drive off the clones who were beginning to tire him out. He jumped back to Shino, who gave him a look and handed over the shuriken. Shino's bugs then returned after being able to dispel one of the clones. The clones gathered and charged once more but were forced to jump away as the swarm of bugs re-engaged. Sasuke saw this as Shino giving him an opening and dashed forward and threw the large shuriken. Zabuza saw the attack and chuckled while swatting away the giant shuriken with his kubikirabocho. He was surprised, however, when a small swarm of bugs that were coating the shuriken shot towards him, forcing Zabuza to release the jutsu and jump away. Zabuza had bugs on his sword arm rapidly sucking his chakra, so he had to blur through one-handed seals and shoot an orb of water onto his arm, just strong enough to remove the attached bugs. The bugs were still able to take a fraction of his chakra, not too much, but Zabuza couldn't afford to get caught like that more than a couple times. Kakashi saw an opening and, taking out kunai, dashed towards Zabuza intending to end it, while Zabuza removed Shino's bugs. Zabuza's senses screamed for him to move, so Zabuza obliged and attempted to backflip out of danger, when Kakashi appeared next to him slashing a Rai-Tun-enhanced kunai towards his neck. Zabuza managed to twist in an effort to protect his jugular vein from the copycat ninja. Kakashi adjusted his slash to cause the most damage he could. The kunai left a deep cut from Zabuza's collarbone to his shoulder, leaving Zabuza with little power in his left arm. Zabuza then jumped back for distance. Kakashi took a deep breath and mentally thanked his genin and foster genin. He instructed the genin to fall back and protect Tazuna, to which they had no qualms with at the moment after seeing Zabuza in action. Shino hoped his Team 7 comrades were alright, but he suspected Naruto could handle it himself. With Naruto, Aoi quickly recovered from the gale palm and backflipped to maintain distance between him and his two pursuers. Naruto and Hinata stopped to formulate a plan of attack, while keeping their eyes on Aoi. He was a Chunin when he left the village a few years ago with the Raijin. Assuming he took it for power, more than likely he'll rely on it heavily. If we remove it from his possession, he will be much weaker, said Hinata. Sounds like a plan. He will improve our chances of survival, Naruto replied with a grin. Annoyed by the strategy meeting held as if he wasn't and the weird comment about their survival, Aoi removed an umbrella he kept on his back and jumped high into the air. Once in the air, he opened his umbrella and yelled, "Hidden Rain's secret technique. Needle drizzle jutsu." Thousands of senbon shot out of the open umbrella and continued to shower the area with senbon needles. When the jutsu ended and Aoi landed back on the ground, he expected to see two genin reminiscent of a porcupine. To his surprise and annoyance, he saw the two genin were shielded by a goddamn shield collage made of chains. As Aoi exclaimed loudly, Naruto let his chain shields dissipate into nothingness as he glared at Aoi emotionless. Hinata foregoing her smile for a similar expression. Growing angrier at the two uppity genin, Aoi removed Raijin no Ken, Sword of the Thunder God, from his belt, intent on giving them a look of shock either physically or metaphorically. Aoi wasted no time in showing the power he carried. With the Raijin, he channeled a little bit of lightning chakra and discharged a bolt of lightning chakra towards the genin, keen on frying them both. The genin duo dodged in separate directions using their own version of the jolt step. Tactic 8, Naruto yelled. Hinata, recognizing said tactic, began using her jolt step to continuously change her position and quickly evade while waiting for an opening to launch a long-ranged attack. Naruto would do the same but would try to create an opening because his jolt step was faster. Naruto threw a few kunai that Aoi dodged while sending small but powerful bolts from his rain at Naruto. Hinata threw shuriken and senbon, catching Aoi in the leg with a senbon. After sending a bolt at her, Aoi charged at Hinata intending to shock her at close range but was forced to stop by a couple chains that almost pierced him in the gut. Naruto knew that Aoi could send a bolt at any time even while blocking others and, in his case, Naruto's sword, so he used his chains to give Hinata time to jolt away. Aoi was beginning to hate these two genin. He needed to take one of them out, and the blonde was higher on his shit list, but the Hyuga girl was extremely close. Aoi threw a few poisoned kunai at Naruto and attempted to hit him with one of his lightning bolts by aiming in the direction he forced Naruto to move by tactically throwing his kunai, but Naruto did consecutive jolt steps, avoiding any damage. Naruto knew they'd have to test Aoi's defense and attack from long range, which he was better at than Hinata. Naruto only needed to create an opening for Hinata and they would more than likely leave unscathed. They'd be leaving alive and with the Raijin no Ken regardless, Naruto thought, but they had to be seamless. So this is the best you can do with the Raijin. Shameful. Some were just meant to be weak. Naruto taunted Aoi to get him to fire off a big bolt, requiring him to mold more chakra into the sword before he shot another one off. He had been carefully watching the Raijin, and since the blade formed from chakra, most was needed for its shape. Aoi growled at Naruto and pumped as much as he could at once and shot a massive bolt at Naruto that was faster than the rest. Even being prepared with his jolt step, he narrowly made it out of the way. Naruto now had his opening and went through hand seals, futon air bullet jutsu. Naruto shot compressed bullets of air towards Aoi. Aoi tried to dodge, He even brought up his Raijin to defend, but there were too many coming and he could barely see them. Aoi was hit by 4 of the air bullets. No vital points, but he began to bleed profusely. Hinata had started her hand seals for Suetun tearing torrent jutsu. The moment she saw Aoi shoot the giant bolt that Naruto had taunted out of him, she figured there'd be a small cooldown time after that shot and saw her opening. Hinata infused a large amount of water chakra in her stomach. As she expelled it through her mouth, she manipulated it to spin faster and faster, rocketing a torrent of water towards Aoi. The torrent hit Aoi only seconds after he was hit with the air bullets that caused him to completely forget about Hinata. The torrent of water blew Aoi into a tree, and Hinata kept pouring chakra into the jutsu that was crushing Aoi against the tree. The tree broke when Aoi was blasted through, Aoi losing the Raijin in the process and was grabbed by one of Naruto's chains. Naruto sealed the sword in a storage seal on his right arm under his sleeve. Hinata Jolt stepped to his side and they made their way to the former Konoha Nin. Aoi was in disbelief. Everyone fell to the Raijin. He was stronger than most jonin with the blade. Most people attempted to close the distance and he'd have an easier target, but these 2 genin. They continued to blur away to different spots so Aoi couldn't catch them with a bolt, and they hit him with jutsu the second he discharged a strong bolt that should have left the blonde in ashes. Now his chakra was all used up in an effort to survive the water jutsu by coating his body and organ. Aoi had maybe 1 jutsu left, if he didn't bleed out first. He decided he'd take at least one of them out with him. Naruto and Hinata watched as Aoi struggled to his feet and slowly went through hand seals. He then slowly channeled his lightning chakra into a ball that almost sputtered out and weakly called out Raitun Execution Sphere. The ball then shot towards the duo at surprising speed but was dodged easily by the genin who had seen Aoi slowly create the jutsu. Aoi fell to a knee in exhaustion and rasped out, "If my partner was back and fought with me, you'd be nothing but a charred husk by now." Feeling that it was time to improve his chances of survival, Naruto jolted to Aoi and with his katana already unsheathed, lopped his head off and sealed it in his sleeve with the last head. Naruto turned to Hinata who was still acclimating to killing. He could see her inner struggle as she'd just had her first kill a couple days ago. Knowing that it wasn't the time Naruto tried to lighten her mood. Did he really just slowly perform that jutsu thinking it'd work? Naruto said to Hinata with a smile. Hinata managed a smile and replied, "I think I can remember the hand seals. Did you see how the chakra was molded?" Naruto smirked and took out some ink and wrote down the hand seals and a description of how he saw the chakra being molded. Aoi did the hand seals so slow even he had time to memorize them. It had to have been an A rank, was a trail of destruction left to attest to the fact. They were about to return to check on their team when Hinata faced Naruto and pouted. Naruto gave her a question glance with a bit of amusement breaking through his emotionless expression. "You have another jutsu and the sword you wanted, and I'm stuck with the same few Suetun jutsu." Giving Naruto a patented puppy dog eye jutsu, Hinata cutely said, "I want more Suetun jutsu." Naruto replied that he didn't know any, or how to get anything more than the Chunin library had. Hinata gave Naruto a playful glare to which Naruto responded with an emotionless expression. The staring contest continued for a few more seconds until Naruto relented and promised to find Hinata at least 2 Suetun ninjutsu. Hinata knew how crafty Naruto could be and she wanted her Suetun jutsu. The two then made their way towards their team. With Kakashi. Kakashi took a slight hit to his pride, having to be rescued by the genin. Yamato would get a nice laugh if he heard about it and Guy would probably say something about his youth diminishing. Kakashi told Zabuza it was time to end things and Zabuza, fighting through the pain, went through hand seals in response. Kakashi copied the first jutsu, Suetun Water Shark Bomb Jutsu, and sent an identical copy that intercepted Zabuza's. He did exactly the same with the next, Suetun Water Dragon Bullet Jutsu, causing Zabuza to become increasingly frustrated. Naruto and Hinata arrived, appearing unharmed and watched the exchange. They then used a Shunshin to appear on the lake behind Kakashi to provide backup. Sasuke seethed at the two genin trying to outshine him more and left Shino to guard Tazuna alone in favor of fighting Zabuza. Zabuza knew that seeing the genin return meant Aoi was dead or defeated. If they could defeat him unharmed then they'd be able to provide Kakashi with suitable backup, and Zabuza was beginning to lose too much blood. Zabuza signaled for his hidden comrade to create a distraction. Haku, who was watching Zabuza's back from afar, saw his signal for a distraction, so she used a quick Shunshin to appear in a tree behind Zabuza on the bank of the river and went through hand seals. Hayaton 1,000 Needles of Death, Haku thought as she materialized around 1,000 ice senbon that rained down upon the Konoha Nin near Zabuza. Kakashi immediately went through hand seals for Suetun Water Wall with Hinata doing the same behind him. Accidentally combining their jutsu, a massive water wall was raised, blocking the ice needles. Once the water receded, Zabuza and the hunter Nin were gone. Kakashi collapsed and Naruto carried him to the shore with his chains. He sat him down while Hinata scanned him for injuries with her Byakugan. She told Naruto it was only chakra exhaustion and Naruto had an idea. Kakashi, I'll make you a deal. I might be able to return some chakra to your system before your body has a prolonged reaction to the lack of chakra. But if I do, you must teach Hinata the 2-Sway-Ton jutsu we saw you copy from Zabuza when we got back. Kakashi looked at Naruto wondering if he could really do it and croaked out, I'll write in a scroll first chance I get. Activating his Saigen, Naruto analyzed Kakashi's chakra signature and used a chain to introduce a similar chakra to his system by touching the white tomo tip to Kakashi's forehead. Kakashi, still having his Sharingan uncovers, was able to verify that Naruto did indeed have a Dojutsu, as the Hokage suspected. He was briefed on a secondary mission to attempt to verify if Naruto had an unknown Dojutsu. Kakashi noted that the only sign of his Dojutsu was a glowing blue ring around the iris of his eye. Feeling some of his strength returned, Kakashi covered his borrowed eye and rounded up his team to assess damages. Everyone was alive and unharmed for the most part. Kakashi was tired while Sasuke had a few cuts and bruises from the clones but would be just fine. The genin of Team 7 looked spotless except for a little blood on Naruto's sleeve. Naruto told Kakashi to remember their deal, to which Kakashi smiled. Tazuna then led the team to his house and introduced his daughter Tsunami and grandson Inari. Once the team settled down, they gathered to discuss their next plan of action. Kakashi started by having Naruto and Hinata explain why they separated from the group and how the fight went. Kakashi guessed it was for the best because the Raijin no Ken could cause damage quickly over a decent distance and Tazuna would be in danger. But he wanted to hear Naruto's reasoning to be sure. Naruto gave the same reason Kakashi guessed, and the two explained their fight with Aoi. Kakashi asked Naruto where the Raijin was, and Naruto told him it was in a safe place. Kakashi gave a stern look, but Naruto didn't budge with his emotionless expression. Kakashi relented but asked to speak with Naruto in the morning for a few things, including their deal. Shino posed a question about when to expect an attack, and after careful thought Kakashi thought they'd have at least 3 days before Zabuza was healed. Hinata mentioned Aoi's last words, which hinted at his known partner, Kazuma Kurosagi, returning, which meant they had 2 Jonin and a 3rd shinobi with Chunin-level reserves. Kakashi took in the information, then spoke evenly. Assuming those are our only enemies, we have 2 choices. The first is to escape, which we will do regardless if there are any more ninja than that. We'll go over our plan of retreat with Tazuna and if needed his family tomorrow. Our second option is to have one of you fight the Chunin alone and 2 of you hold the Jonin off until I'm able to help after defeating Zabuza. One of you would have to stay back and guard Tazuna. Sasuke looked at Kakashi and demanded that he fight Kazuma. Knowing Sasuke, if Kakashi didn't have a good reason why he couldn't, then Sasuke would do it anyway. Kakashi also knew Sasuke wouldn't stand for, they have better teamwork. Kakashi asked Naruto or Hinata if either of them felt confident taking on the fake hunter Nin alone. Everyone silently agreed Shino would protect the client because he'd be less effective in an all-out fight. Hinata knew Naruto wanted the other sword as well, because back when Yamato-sensei gave them the bingo book, Naruto had mentioned the 2 ninja and their swords. He'd even joked about combining the stolen Raijin with Kazuma's Nozarashi. She couldn't understand it, but Naruto had said they were like 2 halves of a perfect masterpiece. Hinata knew Naruto would find allowing the Uchiha to claim the other half of his unacceptable. Naruto could very well find that killing the Uchiha and taking the sword was his best option to improve his chances of survival. In the end, he would become a missing Nin on the run and she'd go with him. Deciding a much easier route and putting her intellect to good use, Hinata spoke sagely. Kakashi-san, that's a good idea, but I believe initially having Naruto fight Kazuma alone and Sasuke fight the fake hunter Nin alone with me on standby to help whoever needs it the most. Sasuke began to speak, but Hinata just spoke louder and a little bit faster. The fake hunter Nin uses Hayatan, ice style, and Sasuke's a Katan, fire style, user. Naruto knows Kazuma's information and the ability of his sword. Since Naruto practices Kenjutsu as well as having the most experience against Jounin opponents and overall, he would be the best option to fight Kazuma. Shino added his opinion to not be forgotten. With me guarding Tazuna, I believe Hinata's plan is the most logical, although it's Kakashi-san's call. Naruto simply looked on with his unemotional expression. He was planning on using Kazuma to improve his chances of survival regardless. Sasuke continued to insist on being the Jonin when Kakashi silenced the Genin with a motion of his hand. Sasuke, Hinata's right, will go with the matchups, she decided. If you're really ready to take on a Jonin alone, then a Chunin with Hayaton against your fire should leave you with enough time to jump in with Naruto. And Naruto, remember that although Kazama is a B-rank Jounin just like Aoi, most of his strength lies in his sword. And with that, the group ate a hot meal prepared by Tsunami. After finalizing sleeping arrangements, they went to sleep for the night, taking turns on guard. In the morning, after a quick breakfast, Kakashi took Naruto outside for a private talk. Naruto followed Kakashi until they were out of hearing range. Kakashi started bluntly, "When were you going to inform the Hokage of your jujutsu, and why did you hide it?" Naruto responded neutrally, "I was going to tell him when someone figured it out, or if he came clean about the things he's hiding from me. I never hid my jujutsu, because it isn't easy to spot. I don't have to hide it." Kakashi leveled Naruto a serious look. "And what does your jujutsu do?" Naruto replied as if he'd prepared for this question. "It increases my sensory abilities and I can see chakra. I will say nothing else about it until I speak with the Hokage." Kakashi wanted to press the issues, but he was already getting more out of Naruto with no resistance than he expected. "What about the Raijin no Ken? It's a Konoha treasure and isn't something you can just keep. I need to know where it is and it will be returned to the Hokage." Naruto was more annoyed with every question but figured killing or attempting to kill this ninja wouldn't improve his chances of survival. So with a slightly colder tone to his voice, he spoke clearly, "The Raijin no Ken is no more." Despite Kakashi's prodding for a better answer, Naruto would speak no more of the sword. Kakashi could read the underneath of the underneath and knew Naruto wasn't exactly lying but was using wordplay to cover his true intentions. Attempting to lighten the mood after having asked what he needed, Kakashi smiled and spoke with an upbeat tone. "About our deal, I'm not sure that I had a choice or how you did it. I'm not a medical nin, but I know chakra infusions are usually rejected and were deemed an unfit medical treatment in the field. How you infused so much so quickly with no drawbacks is a question the Hokage will have to ask, I'm assuming. Either way, I have the two jutsu written on the scrolls, but before I give it to Hinata, I need to be sure she is ready for a BN and A rank jutsu. I know she used Tearing Torrent against Aoi, and if she shows me that she uses it correctly, I'll give her the scrolls." Naruto nodded and they proceeded inside to their awaiting team. Kakashi made a schedule with two genin staying back to train while Kakashi and the other two guarded Tazuna on the bridge while they worked. The genin staying back would be Naruto Hinata today, Sasuke Shino day 2, while Shino Hinata and Sasuke stayed on the third day with Kakashi and Naruto guarding the bridge. After showing Kakashi her Suiton Jutsu, Hinata received her scrolls and began to study them. Naruto went to the forest to train his Kenjutsu in preparation for Kazuma. Hinata stayed by the lake near Tazuna's house working on her water affinity, since she wouldn't be able to learn the jutsu in 3 days and still have chakra to fight. Naruto was going through his Kenjutsu stances when he felt the chakra signature of the fake hunter Nin. He continued going through the motions and activated his Saigon as the ninja closed the distance, stopping in a tree 12 meters away from him. He continued his training while analyzing their chakra. He could sense the residual Hayaton chakra within the ninja. He could tell was a female by her chakra signature. Naruto's senses had really improved and the blue ring around his Saigon had tripled its original size and would soon be somewhat obvious if it continued to grow inward towards his pupil. While mentally dissecting the ninja chakra, Naruto noticed a few similarities between the intricate parts of the ninja's chakra and Hinata's. Naruto had an idea that would make Hinata happy and stronger. If he attained the Norisashi, he planned on creating one of the strongest swords in existence, and knowing Hinata's competitiveness that she hides behind her cute smile, Hinata would push herself to match him, and Naruto would give her another option in her arsenal to do it. Naruto knew how he'd catch the fake hunter Nin. He turned his back to her direction and slowly began going through hand seals as if he was practicing a new jutsu. He gathered and compressed wind chakra in his hand and quickly slammed the compressed air into the ground, causing a large dust cloud to shoot up. Using his moment unseen, Naruto jolted to behind the tree she was in and with a consecutive jolt step appeared behind the fake hunter Nin in the tree. The ninja was quick and leapt from the tree as he appeared, but it was already too late. Naruto shot out 8 chains that grabbed and restrained the fake hunter Nin. This time she had no mask on and Naruto noted that she was extremely cute. He jumped down with his prisoner in tow and ignored her glare while he took a good look at her chakra, confirming that it was somewhat compatible. "Who are you?" Naruto asked. "I'm Haku and I will not betray Zabuza-sama," said Haku with vehement defiance. Naruto gave a light smirk and with the tip of his chain, touched the center of Haku's chest and began to siphon off her chakra. He drained her to the point of light chakra exhaustion, leaving her with just enough chakra to stay alive and conscious. Naruto held the stolen chakra in his chain, while he placed his right hand on his left arm sleeve creating a basic chakra storage seal. He touched the chain to the seal, which glowed, briefly sealing Haku's chakra, containing residual Hinata chakra. He then addressed her emotionlessly, "I don't care about Zabuza. He is not the one who will improve my chances of survival. Is Kazuma Kurosagi with you, and are there any hand seals unique to your Hinata? If you answer me and show me the seals, I won't use you to improve my chances of survival today, and you'll be free to leave. I promise, and I don't go back on my word." Haku was hesitant to believe this shinobi. She held no loyalty for Gato or Kazuma, who'd arrived that very morning, and Haku could only show him the hand seals, and maybe even random ones if she believed she could get away with it. Either way, the boy wouldn't be able to recreate her jutsu because it was her bloodline. As she weighed her options, she heard Naruto speak. "If you lie, I will kill you and trace your chakra back to your hideout and kill Zabuza. If you lie, I will know." Naruto wasn't bluffing and could tell if she lied by closely watching her chakra. He would be able to see the flicker of emotion within her chakra. Haku answered slowly in case these were her last words. "Yes, he's currently with us, and the primary hand seals used are ox, boar, and ram. Also, I would need the use of my body to show you the unique hand seals." Naruto verified that she wasn't lying and released her from his chains, but watched her carefully. Once freed, Haku noticed the massive drain on her chakra reserves. She knew he stole a significant amount of chakra in only about 10 seconds but was just now realizing how low her reserves were. If she used a single jutsu, even a shunshin, she would collapse. She hoped he would back his words with action because she was in no fighting condition. Haku slowly went through the 2-3 unique hand seals, holding them for a few seconds before going to the next. After she finished, Haku was surprised to see the blonde motioning her to leave. "You're not going to kill me when I turn around, are you? And why aren't you? You're a shinobi and I'm your enemy. You got what you wanted, so why?" Haku asked Naruto, sincerely having nothing to lose. "If I were going to kill you, you'd be dead from lack of chakra. And I'm not killing you because I made a promise, and killing you won't improve my chances of surviving. I can tell a lot about a person from their chakra. To me, chakra tells all. When we ran into Zabuza, your chakra told me you were reluctant to kill, which is probably why you stayed back as backup. Even as you saw me seemingly oblivious of your presence, you had no intentions to harm me. I sensed an inner conflict within you." As Naruto spoke, the ring around his eyes began to glow brighter. He began again. "Why do you do this? If you continue, you will die. Zabuza can't match Kakashi, and Kazuma will improve my chances of survival. You can't beat the Uchiha and the Hyuga. You are strong, but she is stronger." Haku listened to the conviction with which Naruto spoke. He wasn't bluffing. Naruto spoke as if this was irrefutable, and Haku believed him. Haku spoke as if to convince herself. "I can't. Zabuza-sama wants to go through with the mission, and I'll fight as his tool to the end. I had no one when Zabuza-sama found me. When my father found out I had a bloodline, he gathered the people of our small village and confronted my mother and I. My father killed my mother in front of me, and I lost control of my emotions, activating my bloodline. I destroyed the whole building, killing my own father. I lived on the streets fighting starvation and barely able to eat when Zabuza found me. That's why I won't betray him. I'll be his tool until he achieves his dreams or until I die." Naruto chuckled. "A life of servitude isn't worth what Zabuza did for you. You had a bloodline, and he decided to train you to be of use to him. By now, you've more than paid your debt. You're just scared to be Haku, the bloodline user, because it got your family killed. You'd rather be a meaningless tool for someone because your life got hard. I killed 30 people by the time I was 11 because I had to defend myself from assassins and mobs of villagers. The leader of the village lied to me every time I asked why and hid more about me that I still don't even know about. My village both fears and hates me while my peers are terrified of me. I have one person who understands me, one person who's shown me true love and kindness." Naruto's voice had begun uncharacteristically rising to nearly a yell. "But she's never treated me as a monster or a tool. I'll never be a good little ninja for the village either. I'll become strong enough that they will respect me or lose me." Naruto Uzumaki. "Haku, you are a coward, too afraid to face life head-on, and if we fight again, I will kill you. Not for my survival, but because of your inability to live your own life. If you're a tool, I'll break you. The only sentient weapons a ninja should have are the legendary swords." And with that, Naruto disappeared in a shunsin, leaving Haku mentally torn. With a lot to ponder, Haku left to report that she was chased away by a blonde who recognized her chakra signature. She would have to think things through over the next couple days while Zabuza healed. Naruto returned to Tezuna's after having calmed himself. He didn't know why he snapped at Haku or why he cared. He guessed it was the familiar look in her eyes of someone afraid to be alone. Naruto decided he would invite Haku to Konoha should she grow a pair and decide to live for herself before he kills her. He had a weird feeling, no, a premonition he'd have leverage over with the Hokage of the Hidden Leaf Village when he returned, so it would work out. Naruto returned to Tezuna's after relaxing his mind to check on things. Then he made his way to Hinata at the nearby lake. She was standing on the water while going through her taijutsu katas. He watched as she finished the exercise and made her way over to him. "Hey Naruto-kun, how'd your training go? Are you done so soon?" Hinata spoke eagerly. "I didn't finish because I was interrupted by an unwanted guest. I handled it but thought it best to come back to Tezuna's in case any of the ninja made an appearance." Hinata quickly looked over Naruto with her Byakugan to make sure he was okay. After seeing that he was perfectly fine, Hinata nodded and gave an inquisitive look to Naruto. Naruto smiled and with a spark in his eyes said, "There's nothing to worry about, and please don't tell Kakashi anything ever happened. Also, I need you to do a favor for me. When the Uchiha fights the fake hunter Nin, her name is Haku. I want you to watch her hand seals and jutsu closely. Try to take in as much as you can before you have to jump in, but be careful because she's strong." Hinata's eyes narrowed slightly and she asked, "Did this Haku attack you in the forest? And are you planning on recreating her Hayatan chakra?" Naruto gave her a brief devious smile before returning to his emotionless yet slightly softened expression and replied, "I'll explain once we're back in Konoha. Do you need any help with your training?" Hinata relented and nodded with a smile. "Actually, I could use some shadow clones to help me test the clan jutsu my father showed me for getting Rookie of the Year. I need a few with more chakra to attack and send jutsu towards me. I need about 10 to 20 for my other one to test its limits and drawbacks." With a ram seal, Naruto poofed out about 35 clones and had them go with Hinata while he meditated and expanded his senses. He had a theory that his sensory ability was directly tied to his Saigan, or more importantly its development. While Hyuga and Uchiha would train their eyes by training their eyesight in their own ways, Naruto's eyes worked differently for the most part. He believed that the ring around his eyes grew because of his growing sensory ability, having used it so much lately. He wondered what his Saigan could do at full capacity. What will he be able to discover about chakra then? Naruto was deep in his meditation when he was pulled into his mindscape for the first time in years. Naruto opened his eyes to see the same dreary sewer he saw when he was younger. It had been forever since the Kyuubi spoke to him, and although he wondered why, it was never really important and he was hesitant to speak to the fox. Naruto used his Saigan to observe his mindscape. The whole place was fully defined, unlike before. Pipes lined the walls, he was standing in water a couple feet deep and the lighting was dim. The sewer was huge and so were the gates with a seal tag in the middle. Naruto could see it all clearly and he became aware of the water covering the floor on his side of the gate. He realized that it was a representation of his chakra. He could see how his chakra signature had slightly changed. Mokutan had become his main affinity. He was surprised at the amount of Mokutan chakra he naturally produced. This could only mean that Mokutan was in his very DNA. Even if he lost his Saigan and the heightened ability to control and manipulate chakra, release chakra would still come to him naturally. Naruto had originally thought he only had the ability to produce the chakra because he used his Saigan to get the feel of it, similar to training an affinity for a new element. He believed his Saigan simply introduced the new element and allowed him to gain control quicker than training normally, but it must have integrated all the way into his DNA, fully granting him the bloodline. He saw that the Mokutan chakra had leaked to the other side of the gate, forcing the infinite darkness that resided behind the gates backwards. Naruto focused his senses and eyes on the darkness behind the gate and saw a red blur far out into the abyss of black. He then realized the darkness that filled the space behind the gate was a representation of the Kyuubi's chakra. He could tell with his Saigan that it was near endless. He saw it as black because of the overwhelming hatred and negative emotion contained within. He reached the limits of his Saigan sight but needed to know more about Kyuubi's chakra. The ring in his eyes expanded ever so slightly as they began to glow brighter and brighter. He pushed his Saigan to see more and it did. His senses combined with his sight. He could see what he sensed and sensed what he saw. This made the chakra he would sense or see become easier to understand. He could now see within Kyuubi's chakra that his negative emotions didn't outweigh his positive emotions as much as it originally seemed. The Kyuubi was in a way depressed and surprisingly lonely. It's probably been this way for decades, maybe even centuries, but Naruto couldn't know why without talking to the Kyuubi. As Naruto scanned over the abyss thinking of how to best reach the Kyuubi, he noticed 2 chakra signatures hidden within the abyss. They were too obscure and small for him to analyze, but he'd try something after getting to the Kyuubi. Naruto first willed his Mokutan chakra to return to his side of the bars, which was easy enough to achieve. He then focused on the red blur and willed it come closer. A moment later, a deep gravelly voice spoke. Finally, damn it, you and your self-imposed mission to steal the Shodae's chakra worked, and my chakra was suppressed as a result. I could barely even watch if these bars weren't here. The QB left the threat hanging in the air. Naruto spoke neutrally, inwardly sweating bullets at the fox's killing intent. I didn't know the chakra would suppress yours or how to contact you. If an apology is what you want, then I apologize. You've helped me in the past, so I'm willing to repay the favor. I've scanned this mindscape and I'm pretty sure I can change it to something more appealing. Naruto felt the need to help the QB. He honestly didn't care that the QB attacked the village. The village has shown him that they might have deserved it, although he only received the shit end of the stick when it came to the Konoha experience. QB thought the boy was full of shit, but he was no longer locked up tighter than a virgin's butthole, so he had time to play games. Yeah, sure, Gaki. Give me a huge forest with large clearings and animals. I want gigantic rabbits and a huge tree that I can sleep under. Fuck it, throw in a few villagers for me to play with. To say Naruto was blown away was an understatement. Who would have thought the QB was a vulgar smartass? Naruto decided he would do as the fox asked, even though he had a feeling the fox was being sarcastic. He focused on what the QB wanted and made a mental image in his mind. He pictured the giant trees that surrounded Konoha and started with a massive forest adding streams and lakes to the new landscape. Next he added a mountain range that looked familiar to the small mountain behind Konoha that the Hokage's faces occupied, although he didn't add the faces. Naruto then added fields of grass and all the other plant life he'd ever seen, and even added some large training grounds just because. Next, Naruto added a massive tree in the middle surrounded by a field of grass, and animals, making sure to add massive rabbits the size of bears and a few massive bears to give QB a challenge. And lastly, Naruto added in all the villagers who mistreated or tried to kill him. He made them wear bright orange baggy tracksuits and had them live in poorly maintained tents, along with a few touches. QB was floored by the jail his puny warden had created. If this was in the real world, he'd claim it as his territory that very instant. QB no longer had time to play with the Gaki. You really fucking did it, kid. I like you. Call me Kurama. Very few have had the honor of knowing my name, so you're lucky, kid. I want you to create a mind link so we can speak in the future without you invading my new home. The giant fox said energetically. I'm assuming you like your new home. Until I find a way to free you, this is the best I can do. Naruto replied with a chuckle. Free me? Don't play with me, ninjin. Your kind would never. Kurama barked, eyeing Naruto carefully. I mean it, Kurama. I plan on freeing you. I'll need to find a way to release you and find a place for you to live in peace, but it will be possible for the strongest shinobi to ever live. Kurama listened to Naruto and wondered if Naruto was as special as the boy's eyes were, or if it was all a trick to gain his chakra. Kit, if you release me, you will die. It will never happen. Don't give promises you can't keep. The multi-tailed fox said as he began to turn away. I don't break my promises, Kurama. I don't care if you don't believe me. I'll make it happen. Naruto replied, knowing the fox was still listening. Kurama turned to look Naruto in the eyes to see if he was serious and found an unwavering will through the eyes staring back at his own. We'll see, ninjin, but for now, I want a snack. They better fucking taste like real rabbit. And with those parting words, the QB ran off to chase one of those giant rabbits. Kurama noticed but paid no attention to the collar around his neck with a seal tag. It was better than his previous situation. Naruto simply smirked and mentally created a link between the two before observing his masterpiece. He'd made the clouds that covered the sky endlessly into the representation of Kurama's chakra. He even made the clouds bright to not constantly remind Kurama of his negative emotions. The representation of his chakra reserves was a small lake near Kurama's tree. Naruto thought his job was good and felt deserved a well-timed rest for this, but he had other things to do. He scanned the clouds until he found the two foreign chakra signatures and willed them to appear before him. Naruto felt resistance, but chakra itself was his to behold. His eyes would reveal everything about chakra to him, and if he wanted it, he would take said chakra. Naruto used his Saigan to help pull the chakra to him, and soon two blue masses of floating chakra appeared in front of him. The chakra formed into people. The first was a beautiful redhead woman with long hair and mischievous eyes. She wore a standard jonin uniform with an all-black katana on her back. The second mass of chakra formed into a tall, spiky blonde-haired man wearing a standard jounin outfit with long sleeves under a white cloak with flames on it. The man looked like the fourth Hokage and similar to Naruto if he had long bangs on the side of his face. Naruto wondered why their chakra was inside him sealed with the QB. He was even more confused at their nervous yet excited faces, putting him on guard. Who are you and why are you here? Naruto delivered his question impassively. "I'm Kushina Uzumaki, your mom," screamed the woman who jumped to Naruto trying to give him a hug, but was stopped by a shield of chains that had a sharp white tomo in the middle which didn't look friendly. Naruto lost his emotionless expression and his jaw slightly dropped. But he quickly reined in his emotions as he created a shield to stop her from trying to hug him again. The man spoke up with a firm voice, "I'm Minato Namikaze, the 4th Hokage and your father. We're here to help you. I'm the one who sealed the Kyuubi into you to protect the village, and I also sealed a bit of our chakra. Your mom's chakra was here to allow her to appear when you attempted to take full control of the Kyuubi's chakra and help you in the struggle for control as well as meet her. My chakra was a failsafe that would activate if the Kyuubi was on the cusp of escaping the seal. I would appear and reseal the Kyuubi before being able to talk to you. So far, we've been able to follow your life up till this point, but once you leave your mindscape, our chakra will run out, so we have to make this quick. We aren't trying to deceive you." Naruto listened to what the man had to say and after a moment of thought, dispelled his chains. He appreciated his father's quick explanation, because he didn't like the idea of being out of the loop in his own mindscape. Naruto nodded and allowed a smile to grace his face for the parents he always wanted. Naruto thought of a million questions but wanted to hear what his mother had to say. He liked her voice. Kushina waited for Minato to explain the situation, hoping her son would drop his chains so she could hug him. Once Naruto dropped the chains, Kushina let Minato finish, and then gave a questioning glance to Naruto after he'd smiled at them. Naruto once again nodded and slightly opened his arms, and Kushina gave him the strongest hug a chakra personality could. After a moment, Naruto returned the hug. "Naruto. What if Naruto cheated death, surviving a wild assassination like Gaara? We have reached the end for part 1, let's get 20 like for part 2.